evening, everyone, and welcome along to the Sim Night Race at the Fanatec Arena. We've got the 24 hours of Spa hanging on in the background. That is the noise that you can hear in this arena as the 24 hours of Spa continues. But we are going to focus our attention on a qualifying session, a qualifying race, and then a full 1 hour encounter with the very best online racers that we've seen over the last couple of years, finally getting together and meeting in person here in the Fanatec Arena at Spa to race in a very different type of event. Myself and Paul Jeffrey alongside you. Paul, you've been commentating on all of the online events over the last couple of years. You know very much the character of these guys, but you probably haven't met many of them in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Ben. Good evening, everybody at home. As you say, commentated the last couple of years now online. It is fantastic, I've got to say, before we get started, to be back in the real world again, to be back on site, meeting the drivers, seeing the whites of the eyes as they're out racing. And make no mistake, folks at home, and those of you in the Fanatec Arena here today at Spa-Francorchamps, these drivers are hungry for a great result. And we're going to see, I'm going to predict here something, Ben, very dangerous for a commentator. We're going to see some spectacular racing, I am sure. They're in a different rig than usual, they're in a different environment than usual, but the competitive instinct kicks in, and then we go mental. And
that's very key. The fact that we are in the Fanatec Arena here at Spa, they are not dealing with the same situation as they would do when they're at home, when they've effectively got a controlled environment. Here, there's so many more things out of your control. For instance, our cameras in your face.
Yeah, and well, I was speaking to a few of the drivers over the course of the day while they've been practicing and just getting ready for tonight's activity. And each and every one, without fail, has said that exact thing. It's a totally foreign environment to them. They've travelled, they're not in their own bed. And I know that sounds silly, but being in your own bed, in your own house, getting up, doing your normal routine, and then jumping in the rig and going racing, take that out of the equation, and it's almost a fish out of water. So yes, we've got talented drivers. Yes, we've got experienced drivers. But now we've got to see who can overcome the obstacles that have been laid in front of them.
One of the big names that is missing off our list, that is comprised out of various different elements of our online racing world, is, of course, James Baldwin, our European champion from last year. Why is he not in our online race? Well, he's racing for real, in the real-life race. And by the time we have finished our 1 hour encounter, he will be doing his first stint in the real 24 hours of Spa, and that is a huge plus to the world of Fanatec, and the reason why we're here. Fanatec trying to blur the lines between real and virtual, and there is a driver doing that this year in the 24 hours of Spa.
Yeah, it's absolutely sensational to see that one. And James, of course, has been a very successful GT driver following his exploits in the world of sim racing. So do, if you're watching the 24 hours of Spa after this broadcast, of course, keep your eye out for how James Baldwin gets on. But let's get to the meaty stuff now, Ben, of what's happening on track. It's qualification. It's only 15 minutes, but it's qualification with a twist, because the end result today of this qualifying session will set the grid for the qualifying race that's coming up, not the main feature race, because we've got a 30-minute qualifying race after that, and that will set the grid for the main race of 60 minutes itself.
I'm not quite sure why we need that, but great. Lots of, I suppose it's more action because these guys, a lot of them flying in yesterday, some of them have come in this morning, but there's been a lot of hanging around to do because most of the day has been involved in just soaking up the Spa 24 hours atmosphere rather than getting to the nitty-gritty of practice. They haven't had a lot of practice on these rigs. They've certainly had much less than the Pro Series guys have when they have 3-4 hours themselves.
Precisely, and that goes back to our point from earlier that the drivers really need to acclimatise as quickly as possible. Kamil Pawlowski that we're looking at on screen now for the Scuderia Ferrari, Velas Esports team, one of those drivers, 20th position at the moment, not where we would expect to see a driver of this calibre running. So Pawlowski, 9 minutes, 22 seconds left on the clock. Worth clarifying as well, Ben, there is no lap limit for these drivers. It's 15 minutes. You can go as long or as short as you want, and Pawlowski will be very keen to get himself at a bare minimum up into that top 6.
Got to keep your car on track. Very easy to exceed track limits on this slightly older version now of Spa-Francorchamps because they have remodeled the circuit this year, the circuit that we are at right now. Plenty more gravel traps to catch you out. And whereby you could usually run over the curbs and then run over the tarmac. Now there is gravel traps to hold you from making contact with the barrier, but unfortunately it does mean the likes of here, you on the game can go 4 wheels off. That means your time is eliminated completely. In the real world, it's into the gravel trap now.
And let us all, ladies and gents at home, take a moment to praise gravel traps and say thank you for their welcome return to Spa-Francorchamps. Now let's look at Kamil Pervolowski still to set a competitive time. Everybody's out on the track, apart from Fisher in 22nd position, so no doubt new tyres make a big difference at the Spa-Francorchamps track. You want to get plenty of clear track running. We've got 24 cars. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're pushing the limits, Ben, 24 cars, you can very quickly get caught up in traffic, and that can ruin your session. And in 15 minutes of qualifying, you can't afford those kind of problems.
And we're seeing a lot of yellow flags as well. I'm surprised that there are so many mistakes going on, because as soon as you go into a yellow flag situation, then you can't set a faster time. So not only are we seeing track limits infringements, we are also seeing yellow flag infringements, and therefore we have, 4, 5, 6 drivers who have not actually set a time, including Wisniewski, who I would say should be one of those guys right at the sharp end.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that one. And just as you were speaking, Nikita Wisniewski, your prediction came true, jumped in a second position behind the aforementioned Kamil Pervolowski that we saw just a few moments ago. 2 minute 15.972. That is a very, very quick lap, faster than we've seen, in fact, during the practice over the course of the day. Several of the drivers spoke to me saying they believe a 2:15 is easy to do at home, but put it into a new environment like this, and it became very, very difficult. Kamil Pervolowski and Nikita Wisniewski immediately showing this qualifying is going to be faster than we've seen at any stage today.
Well, this is a bit embarrassing, Paul, because I spent a good hour on the sims a couple of days ago getting my eye in, and want to guess how fast I went?
Go on.
23s.
Ooh, but that's full fuel. That's what you need to tell people.
No, I did.
No, tell them it's a full fuel.
I genuinely took all the fuel out because I was so disappointed. So that shows kind of the level. Yesterday we saw the Pro Series where James Baldwin came in and drove against the very best real-world drivers in the virtual world, and I reckon he was basically a second a lap faster than them, but he was kind. He only beat them by, Nicky Team, he only beat by 15 seconds. The third place driver, I think there was a gap of more than 30. But that really showed the difference between a pro sim racer and a pro real racer. And then there's the person that talks about it who's a bit further down than that.
And that's why we talk about it rather than out there in the arena. But make no mistake, everybody, these are elite sim racing drivers. I mean, look at the timing stack. The top 19 drivers covered by less than 1 second. These cars have been pushed to the absolute limit. The cars have been set up to tailor to how the driver wants them to behave. Very different cars, Ben. Very different ideas behind the cars. Balance of performance, of course. But the fact that we've got 19 cars, less than 1 second, just goes to show every single one of these drivers is on the absolute limit.
So just quickly then, we have drivers that have been entered by manufacturer teams, we've got drivers that have qualified online, and then we've got drivers that qualified here on site in Spa. They actually got themselves in. We see quite a lot of these pink and black shirts from Unicorns of Love. Now, I know them associated to Mercedes, but here is Dennis, and I'm not sure Dennis is in a Mercedes, is he? No, he's in a Lamborghini.
And we've got Michael Tauscher that's driving in the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2 as well. So we've got a bit of a spreading their chances, shall we say, of success, using different marks, different kind of cars, different kind of strengths and weaknesses to spread the opportunity for the team to increase their performance and score a good result today. Nils Naujoks, by the way, has jumped up into second position, 2/10 shy of Kamil Pervolowski at the front of the field. And Tobias Pfeffer has jumped the number 55 Lamborghini into third place. So Nikita Wisniewski dropped down into fourth place, 2.5 tenths of a second, Ben, covering the top 4 with just 4 minutes and 33 seconds left on the clock.
So a big shout out to the OEMs that have supported this event. BMW, thank you so much for entering drivers. Ferrari, thank you so much for entering drivers. Mercedes AMG also with their 2 works drivers, and Lamborghini with Giorgio Simonini as well. Those are manufacturer-backed machines who make cars for the real world, who compete in the real life 24 hours, entering drivers into this virtual race. That is a huge moment for the world of sim racing.
Oh, we've both done this for a very long time. Take a moment to reflect.
Very long time.
Well, a fair amount. How bonkers is it to say manufacturer works drivers in a virtual environment?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's not bonkers at all because it's how it should be.
For sure, I would totally agree with that one. It is, and as you say, I'll echo that one, Ben. Big shout out to those drivers. Also, big shout out to our drivers that have qualified online and here on site. We'll talk more about that one in the transition between this qualifying session and the 30-minute qualifying race that goes. But I just want to have a quick word about Dominic Blyer that we see on screen at this moment in time. The number 10 Audi in 5th position at this moment in time. Dominic, a very, very quick driver, leading the silver class of the European main championship season, so we know what he can do. And the big thing, Ben, about this race, there's no silvers and pros. Everybody's in the same race, in the same class. Everybody's on an equal footing.
Yeah, that is different to what we see in the Pro Series, where we've got a split half and half of 2 different categories, and therefore we've got 2 different races. Here we have one single race of 24 entries, and that's really great to see. Just in the background there, you can see Nico Wisniewski driving a Ferrari here and entered by Williams Esports.
That's a new one for Williams. I don't remember seeing them campaigning a Ferrari so far during the course of the main series campaign.
But I suppose with the balance of performance the way it is and the updates constantly that Assetto Corsa Competizione have, we do see different manufacturers and different cars performing better at different circuits. So if you know that that car is going to be good at that track because of this last patch, as long as you don't have an association with a manufacturer, go for it. Why not?
Absolutely, and it's working very, very well indeed for Wisniewski at this moment in time. 6th position. He's not managed to improve his time that we saw earlier in the session, but he is in front of some very established drivers, including this man, David Tinitza, for the Works Ferrari team. So Wisniewski, very good qualifying. 2 minutes has just hit the clock. So a lot of these drivers now will be kind of winding up for their very final attempt to set a lap time. And let's ride on board now with David Tinitza for a moment. Let's have a look how well balanced this car is.
Down to 3rd gear through there. Well, that was my first mistake. It was 4th for me. And then accelerated, just settling the car on the early part of the corner to get a better acceleration and exit. Wait for the curb, brake and turn at the same time. Again, down to 2nd gear here. I was 3rd, so I'm learning. I'll be faster next time I have a go. Keeps the car between the white lines. Having a look, it's a legal lap so far. Little bit of oversteer going through Campus corner, and now trying to turn in as late as possible through curve Paul Frere to then get the exit onto this long straight. Is it a lift or is it flat out through Blanchimont? Up to 6th gear, will he snatch it? Yes. Oh, just cut away at the wrong moment. But he keeps the car between the white lines. He's 2.5 tenths up on his previous best. It might not be good enough for pole position unless he can find a big chunk of time in the chicane, which he does. It was obviously the chicane where his problems were. Is this good enough for pole position for Tinitza? No, only 3rd.
But a very, very strong lap, and importantly, 40 seconds on the clock, so Tinitza still has time to set another lap time. Killian Brian Meenan and Darren McCormack in 23rd and 24th have run out of time. They're down pit lane now. Luke Whitehead just goes into 2nd position, jumps down pit lane, so that is his day done as well. Dennis Schoninger crossing the line, 9th place in the Lamborghini. Schoninger cannot improve his lot for the day. But remember, folks, and remember, Ben, this is qualifying for the qualification race. So this is only setting the grid for the 30-minute quote-unquote sprint race that we've got coming up next. So all is not lost. You can still recover.
Look at Nils's fancy livery. Lots of colours on the BS competition BMW. Sitting in 5th position right now. Qualifying is over, but he is able to finish this lap. It is fractionally better than his previous encounter. He needs to find 2 tenths of a second to get himself onto the pole position, which is doable. Only Tinitza ahead of him could actually beat other cars. Now, cars parking up on the side of the track, is that going to affect his pace? No, it doesn't seem to. He's 0.5 tenth up as he now comes through Jackie X. Runs a bit wide, but the track limits don't ping there, and he is gaining a little bit by a little bit.
Yeah, this is a really tenacious drive from Nils Naujoks. We've seen him running 5th in the main championship series in SRO Esports GT World Challenge European Sprint Series. The car's not necessarily had the sheer outright pace of some of his rivals, but Tinitza, experience, skill, and certainly a fair bit of aggressive driving has got him in a good result, and so far this car is doing well. 1.5 tenths up now, so Tanit's having a very good final sector. 5th position at this moment in time. Can he move further up the running order? Everybody in the top 4 now, Ben, a down pit road, so Niels Naujoks is the next man on the buzzer.
Up a second, a 0.15 of a second. It's dropped down to 0.1 of a second, so losing a little bit of time through Campus and Curb Paul Frere. Now comes to the braking zone. You can win so much on the entry, but then you lose it on the exit. He's found a decent braking point, up to 3 tenths better, but he'll lose that on the exit. How much will he lose? Is it too much? Could be an improvement here for Niels Naujoks. Front row of the grid for Naujoks. Not enough for pole, but a good improvement.
Fantastic stuff for Niels Naujoks. A big sigh there. You can hear the applause potentially in the background of the arena. People know that is a good result and a good drive when they see it. So great stuff. Kamil Pawlowski gets pole position and Niels Naujoks joins him on the front row grid. Tobias Pfeffer crosses the line in 3rd place in the number 55 machine. So Tobias Pfeffer pulls one out of the hat right at the very death, and 1/10, just over 1/10 of a second, covers our top 4.
One more car to finish his lap. Osterman comes across the line, was up a 1/10.5, but obviously made a little error into the final turn and stays in 7th spot. So now we have everybody set a lap time, and we go straight into the half-an-hour qualifying race.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. There you go. That is the Fanatec Arena. The crowd's watching on, very excited to see what our drivers could pull up. Hey, excellent. There we go. Great stuff, everybody. Give us a wave. We've got a lot of people here today at Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, it's great that the world has opened up a little bit and the Spa 24 is back. There we go. That's the cheer. It's great that the world is back in action again, Ben. And the crowds at the Spa 24, the real race as well, have just been sensational to see, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Great to have everyone back. Great to have them engaging in our primary sponsors here. Niels Naujoks wiping the sweat?
Sweeping the sweat.
Wiping the sweat off his brow. It is hot in this arena, and because it's full of people, it's even hotter. We've had a very, very scorchio day here in Spa, and therefore this arena, even if the air conditioning is beautiful in the commentary box, are you jealous? It is much, much hotter out in the arena, and these guys work hard, and it's very hard to understand unless you've actually done it, that it is a workout when you're driving in a sim.
Oh, absolutely agree with you. So let's have a quick look at the grid for this qualification race. Kamil Pawlowski, our pole position man, ahead of Niels Naujoks and Tobias Pfeffer in 3rd place. Luke Whitehead in the 21 Porsche, 4th on the grid, ahead of David Tinitza for Ferrari. Dominic Blyer in 6th position. Jakob Osterman lines up in position 7. Nikodem Wisniewski, that we talked about driving a Ferrari for Williams Esports, is 8th on the grid with Dennis Schoninger and George Boothey, 9th and 10th position. Gregor Schill, Michael Tauscher, Tobias Gronwald, Maciej Malinowski, Giorgio Simonini, Nicholas Hoburn, Igor Rodriguez, Luca Lozio, our wild card driver, Jakub Brzezinski and Tinko van der Velde round out our top 20 drivers. Eamon Murphy, Fisher in 22nd, McCormack and Killian Ryaminen. Interestingly, Ben, Killian Ryaminen qualified on site today using the rigs outside this very arena. So coming in arguably less prepared than some of his rivals, but what a great shout to get on the grid in that performance.
He's not the only one, though. We have also got another 3 on-site qualifiers, but they have come as part of Unicorns of Love team. Yeah. As kind of stragglers to the main team and support. And should we have a go anyway?
And that's when you know you've got so much talent, isn't it? That you just pop on, see what happens, and set a lap that beats the many, many people. There's been a queue outside this building all day long of people wanting to have a go. We're looking now just at the final bit of the grid.
Yeah, looking at Luca Lozio there, who's the Mobileye John Lacey Esports Academy driver in a BMW M4. Look out for that fantastic livery. And a big thanks to Mobileye, our primary sponsor in esports this year. We had a fascinating esports conference just earlier about the technology that they're bringing into the world of cars, and so many of our cars already with Mobileye technology. And now they are getting themselves associated very much with the esports world. Big shout out to the guys at Mobileye who are in the arena right now, so interested in the world of esports. And also a big thanks to Thomas Jakemeyer, who I spotted earlier in the crowd. so engaged in what happens in this arena, whether it be the GT Pro Series or these sim races as well. It's all thanks to him that we're here.
So there's no pressure then on these drivers to put on a good show. We've talked them up, they've got the crowds, we've got the platform, we've got the beautiful arena, the fantastic sim that is Assetto Corsa Competizione, including the Kunos developers that are out there in the audience. So it's up to our drivers now to entertain us all for the next 30 minutes in this qualification race. A little bit of housekeeping, Ben, just for everybody at home. Rolling start, as is always the case, will be again in this qualification race. It's a formation lap. On this formation lap, you're warming your tyres, you're warming your brakes, you're preparing your car, aren't you? You're ready to do battle, because an opening lap at Spa is always a bit spicy.
Yeah, first corner, La Source, Biggs. Well, no, not first corner, La Source, of course. We are using the endurance start, so the first corner is very tight, or the pre-first corner is very tight. The first corner is very fast because it's Eau Rouge and it's the acceleration zone, but it is the hardest corner in motorsport. And then you get yourself onto the Kemmel Straight. So all of these guys have got to get themselves into their little boxes to make sure they don't jump the start. I know the race control, human race control here on site will be watching to make sure that everyone is well behaved at the start. We had a few issues in the GT Pro Series race yesterday, including interestingly, James Baldwin, who was on the pole position, being given a drive-through penalty by the game. When our humans then had a look at it, our human race control, they actually decided it wasn't James Baldwin jumping the start. It was the guy alongside him going too slowly. That guy alongside him was in a BMW. Niels Naujoks was looking after him. Look where Niels is. Oh, interesting. I wonder if the strategy will play out the same as it did yesterday.
And that is what's wonderful about having the whole team here behind the scenes. As you say, we've got the race control, we've got the stewards and the broadcast directors. Everybody's making sure.
Photographer.
And a photographer as well. Stood behind us giving us a wave. Everybody's making sure that this is an equal playing field for all our drivers. And just like real life, Ben, in sim, there's preparation work to do. This is not a case of just cruising around, getting ready to follow a process and start the race. You're going to be dragging your brakes, trying to heat the brakes up, because you want that stopping power when you get down the Kemmel Straight into Le Combe. You want the car to be on the point where it needs to be. You're going to be heating the tyres up to make sure you've got the grip. All important things that our drivers have got to nail to give them the advantage.
The good thing about being involved in sim racing versus the real world is in the real world you have to kind of have blind belief. You don't know whether you've got the tyre pressure. You don't know whether you've got the tyre or the brake temperatures. Here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, they have all the data on their screens, and they can see exactly if the outside of the tyre, if the middle of the tyre, if the inside of the tyre is up to temperature. If the brakes are blue, then they're cold. If they are red, then they are, well, no, green, sorry, then they are hot. If they're red, they're overheated. And they can see that. They don't have to kind of think, have I got the car brake? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. They can work it out for themselves. And so, actually, this is why you're seeing not so much weaving and things going about. They don't really want to. They've got the car to where they need to be. Very slow warming up lap, though.
And you would say, with all that information, and wealth, some might say, of information, that would make the first lap a slam dunk, nice and clean first lap. However, we've seen more than our fair share of drama at Spa-Francorchamps down the ages. Let's hope we don't have that again today. Everybody needs to be on their best behaviour, because this is only a qualifying race. We've still got a 1 hour race to come. You make a mistake now, and it's going to compromise you all day.
Works Ferrari driver on the pole position. Works BMW driver in second spot. Then we've got the Lamborghini of Tobias Pfeiffer, and for Porsche in fourth position, Luke Whitehead for GTWR R8G Academy. They roll over the F1 finishing line, the F1 start line, head towards La Source, and then that's when the speed can begin to rise. We're going to get ready for this qualifying race. It only sets the grid for the final race, and the final race is a full hour with a pit stop. So this doesn't count for too much. You really just have to be clean and careful and get through it. That's all you need to be. Tunitsa, down in fifth position. Ferrari versus BMW, though, waiting for those green lights to go. It was a very slow getaway from them all. They're all very well packed up, and it's side by side into Eau Rouge, but Ferrari grabs the early advantage. BMW having to go a little bit defensive on Tobias Pfeiffer, who's in the Lamborghini and looking very, very strong, but very close further back, side by side with Ferrari, with Lamborghini, with Audi, all beside each other, 3 wide, in fact, as we come to the Kemmel Straight. That's Tanitsa being swallowed up by the pack.
Yeah, it's fantastic scenes here at Spa-Francorchamps. David Tanitsa very wise there, recognised he was the meat in the sandwich coming down into the braking zone of Lecom. Backed out of that one, better to live to fight another day. His teammate Kamil Pawlowski, good clean start at the front of the field. Tobias Pfeiffer having a great start as well for Lamborghini to dispossess even Nils Naujoks off that second position. But Tanitsa's got his work cut out ahead of him now. Next man up the road is Dennis Schoninger, who's just made a mistake.
And our Brazilian driver, Igor Rodriguez, unfortunately in the pits after an error on the first lap. So that's going to put him right to the tail of the field. Bail out presumably means retirement from this one, which means he'll start at the back for the next one. It's a long way to come from Brazil for Williams Esports to get himself out on lap 1. But I'm afraid that is, for the moment, looks like the only driver that we have lost on that first lap. So actually, good, respectful driving from the most part of our field.
Yeah, real shame for Rodriguez. Don't forget, he's the leader at this moment in time at the US Sprint Series as well. So Rodriguez, a real talent behind the wheel. And I was looking forward to seeing how he compares against his predominantly European counterparts that we're seeing in this race. Now we're looking at Nils Naujoks. He will not be happy to have dropped a position off of the race start. Tobias Pfeiffer in the Lamborghini. Lamborghini is a mark that we've not really seen at the sharp end of the field in SRO Esports competition too much over the years. Look further down the order, that's Michael Tauscher now, round the outside, that'll become the inside into the bus stop chicane. Good job there by the number 31 machine, and that is a Williams car, I think, going slowly, Ben.
Well, that was Michael Tauscher, who qualified on site here for Unicorns of Love, overtaking the Works Mercedes AMG driver, which is run by Unicorns of Love. So, unfortunately, Tobias Grönfeldt going down. Now we've got him getting past Nico Wisniewski in the Williams Esports Ferrari. So, an amazing performance here from Tauscher, who literally this morning didn't know he was going to be in this race.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from Tauscher. The Williams runs a little bit wide as well, over Radion at the top of the hill. That will be marked down by the software as a cut track for Tauscher. Sorry, not Tauscher. Wisniewski can't afford to make too many more of those mistakes, but that gives Tauscher an opportunity now to try and break the draft in the car, because the draft is so powerful here at Spa-Francorchamps. If you get a car behind you, towed up to the rear of your car, you're nearly defenceless coming down into Lecom. We're looking at Tobias Grönfeldt now, looks to the outside. There's not going to be any room there. The Williams car has the line covered, but Grönfeldt looking very, very on his tippy toes at this moment in time.
Yeah, those pink lights are really, really interesting on the dashboard, because they show you if you're locking a wheel, they show you if you're slightly spinning up the wheels as well. So they're not just rev lights. As soon as they go pink, that means you're breaking traction, either in acceleration or in braking. And we saw going into Bruxelles there, he was locking up the inside wheel. So he's obviously got his ABS turned down to a minimum, like so many of these drivers will, but dealing with a slightly unruly Mercedes AMG right at this moment.
Yeah, but that car we know is very quick in a straight line. So the Mercedes AMG Esports team, Unicorns of Love, say that one fast if you can. That's a long name, but Tobias Grönfeldt will be hungry to make his way up through the running order. Remember, I know we've said it a few times, but we'll say it again. This sets the grid for the main race that will follow later on. Nicholas Hoburn, by the way, further down the running order. Hoburn on the outside in the Audi. That's a Lamborghini. Oh, contact between the two. Nicholas Hoburn, the Lamborghini as well, to the wall on the outside. A couple more cars got involved in that one, Ben, as David Tanitsa is now on a charge further up the field.
McLaren Veloce GT driver Eamon Murphy involved in that one. Works Lamborghini driver Giorgio Simonini involved in that one right at the tail of the field. So a disaster for their qualifying performance. They might as well pack up and wait for our second race to come and hope that they can make more progress in a 1 hour race than they have found in this half an hour encounter. No pit stop. They simply need to worry about just getting to the end. Different strategy and different setup even, really, for a half-hour race versus a full-hour encounter.
Oh, completely. And it's an entirely different game altogether for these drivers. By the way, you were right that Nicholas Hoburn has gone down pit lane and retired, as has Simonini as well. So 3 drivers are now missing from those who started this race, as David Tanitsa trying to close up on the back of Schoninger ahead, but not quite enough of an overlap on this lap. So 21 cars remain out of the 24 that started this race.
we mentioned Killian Ryan Meenan. He was the fastest man around the circuit on the first lap, but on the second lap had a mistake, and I think he might be going to pit lane on this third lap, I'm afraid. So issues. Luke Whitehead's also had a problem right at the front of the field in his Porsche, the best of the Porsches for RHG Academy, tumbling down the field. We haven't seen exactly what's happened to him. Maybe it is an error for Luke Whitehead, but we're focusing our attention on Tanitsa, who has passed him. Luke Whitehead on our timing screens on the in-game says 4th position, but outside the game he is down in 9th spot.
Yeah, so that'll update on your screens at home the next time the drivers cross over the next sector of the lap. So obviously some kind of drama for Whitehead, as you say. 9th position now. That promotes Dominic Blyer, Dennis Schoeninger, David Tanitsa, Jakob Osterman, etc., etc. Up one in the running order. So not quite sure exactly what happened there for Whitehead. Hopefully we'll find out a little bit later on. But this is a ding-dong battle that we've got going on here. And David Tanitsa is the man right in the middle of it. And remember, Ben, Tanitsa in the danger zone on lap 1, backed out and put himself in this spot.
Sensible though, because this counts for noughts. As long as you get yourself a half decent position for the main race, the qualifying race really counts for very little indeed. Fastest lap of the race going to Nils Naujoks on that last one, but there's a lot of work going on further back. Here's Dare McCormack in the Mercedes-AMG team. Williams Esports, a spinner. Luca Lossio round in the Mobileye BMW, and I'm afraid contact with our Works Mercedes driver Dare McCormack is not having it a very his own way. Mercedes-AMG Williams driver, and much like we've seen from BMW over the last couple of years, spreading their load a little bit in terms of different teams here at the Fanatec Arena, because they've got one Mercedes Works driver from Unicorns of Love and another from Williams Esports.
Yeah, which is a good strategy to try and get a good result, but contact like that will not help their cause. Meanwhile, Osterman now on a charge. David Tanitsa, 6th position, firmly under pressure. Jakob Osterman sees the inside line. Tanitsa goes to cover. Osterman runs to the outside into Lecomte. Tanitsa has the line covered, spots his braking zone, places that Ferrari exactly where he needs it to be. So Jakob Osterman needs to start thinking a little bit outside of the box, because look who's behind him, George Boothby. If Tanitsa and Osterman continue fighting like they are, Boothby, as he is being, will very quickly get in that fight as well.
We have only had 8 minutes of this race. You need to calm down. We've got a long way to go. 20 minutes of this one, and then an hour-long race with a pit stop, and therefore strategy to think about in our main race a bit later on, as we take a look at the number 71 machine of Jakob Osterman for Gaidy Racing. And he is one of our drivers qualifying online in his Audi R8. I am told one of the favoured cars around Spa on this latest build, with this latest BOP from SimGrid, working very, very well. And that is perhaps why we see so many of them.
And Osterman doing a very, very strong job indeed. 7th position overall at this moment in time. We're riding on board with George Booby for the Yas Heat Porsche car behind. And look how very different lines these two drivers are taking. Booby's much, much tighter in the corner. Osterman using all of the racetrack and a little bit of the surrounding as well. So Osterman pushing that car very hard as Tauscher in a good fight further down.
Well, Tauscher's already cleared Wisniewski. He's now gone round the outside of Schill. Easy peasy Japanesey. He gets himself up into 10th position.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. A round of applause from the Fanatec Arena. And Ben, let's just talk about that for a moment, because Tauscher's not going to quite be able to re-attack again. Oh, maybe he is actually. A little bit of touchy-feely there going down into the source.
Yeah, that was not very nice, was he? Got kind of helped through the corner and a little bit more, but Gregor Schill feeling wise and sitting in the slipstream rather than trying to make a pass, knowing that that would have certainly been an ABC, an advantage by contact, that plenty of you might well know from your local kart track.
And of course, Gregor Schill's a wily campaigner as well, and he recognises this is key point now. Use the slipstream, coming down the Camel Straight, get the extra speed in that BMW. The inside line is covered. Schill goes to the outside. He'll try and keep the car alongside, cannot quite get it done. Luckily for Tauscher, he holds the racing line, manages to spot the break as well. It's so easy as a defender, Ben, isn't it? To break too late, run completely wide, and just allow your rival to nip straight past.
But also, you can't do when you've got a Ferrari breathing down your neck. If he kind of go around the outside, he's effectively opening the door to Nikodem Wisniewski, who's looking fiery in that Williams Esports Ferrari. in the third of that queue. That has allowed Tauscher a little bit of breathing space, and therefore he can now not worry about behind him and focus ahead. As we've got a drive-through penalty for Dominic Bleijer. Why is that, race control? Not sure.
Yeah, if that is indeed a legitimate drive-through penalty, and Dominic Bleijer will have to serve it within the next 3 laps, goodbye any chance of getting inside that top 20. By the way, we've had Tinko van der Velde jump down pit lane now, so that's another retiree from this race. 19 cars remaining out on the racetrack, but Bleijer in the number 10 Audi machine, 4th position on track at this moment in time. Does not need a drive-through, and of all circuits, Spa-Francorchamps the worst one to serve it.
So we didn't see it, but Bleijer and Luke Whitehead had contact, and race control have been able to replay that particular moment and analyse it from all the different angles, and have decided that Bleijer is to blame. So heavy penalties going to these drivers. They are pro sim drivers, and therefore, unlike we see in the Pro Series, where we've got real-world drivers making silly errors, and we're quite light with our penalties there. Here, hard penalties from SimGrid.
Yeah, absolutely, and it needs to be as well to make sure everybody's on their best behaviour. That'll explain why Luke Whitehead was shaking his head earlier on and dropped down in to 9th position. So as I say, Dominic Bleijer, 3 laps to serve that drive-through penalty, the length of the pit lane here at Spa-Francorchamps. It's the Formula 1 and the endurance pit that you see here. That has basically relegated him to last position. So realistically for Dominic Bleijer, park the car.
The delta is 70 seconds from in to out. Well, it certainly is in the real world, so it should be in the virtual world, as this is a millimetre laser scanned car. Who is that coming out of pit lane? I wonder if it was Van der Velde in the McLaren. Didn't look like a McLaren, did it? But I think it was, as we go side by side. Gregor Schill, the second of our works BMWs, trying to go again round the outside of Nikodem Wisniewski, can't do so. Oh no, hang on, that's Wisniewski getting past, isn't it? So Schill losing another position, and there's another Williams Esports car in there, but that's an Aston Martin of Brzezinski.
Gregor Schill doesn't know whether it's coming or going at this moment in time. Tobias Gronvold tries to take advantage as well, but runs out of space. Brzezinski just about holding on to the inside line, and now put yourself in the shoes of Jakob Brzezinski. You want to attack, you want the car ahead of Gregor Schill, but you've got another Mercedes crawling all over your back of you. The Unicorns of Love car showing his nose to the inside. That is not the place to make an overtake, and that's allowed Maciej Malinowski to buy into this fight as well.
Tobias Gronvold, the best of the Mercedes AMGs, down in 14th position, and on the outside, and gets nailed by a Porsche behind him. Malinowski, that is, in 15th spot. There was a heavy rubbing. I don't think he went round, but maybe position gain from Malinowski. Yes, it was. And Gronvold is not losing too much time, so he hasn't gone round, but maybe an ABC there for Malinowski.
Yeah, Maciej Malinowski, great driver, but always good for a little bit of drama in these races. And the number 992 once again getting involved with the 52 of Tobias Gronvold. 14th and 15th position. They've done a swapsy, going back up further than the running order. The David Tenitsa fight continues. Tenitsa is 5th. The eagle-eyed of you will be wondering why that is. That is because Dominic Bleijer has gone down pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty. So Tenitsa running 5th on track, but still in that sandwich, led by Dennis Schoninger, now in 4th place.
Osterman there, very, very late on the brakes going into the first hairpin of the lap. Almost gave Tenitsa a little bit of a kiss on the back of that Ferrari, but just about managed to hold on the brakes enough not to have contact as we go on board with the Austrian. I don't think I know too many Austrian sim racers, but Jakob Osterman flying the flag for Österreich.
Hey, very nice indeed. And as you're saying that, he goes to the inside. What he's doing there, Ben, again, I know you know this already, but just for the benefit of those who are maybe new to this kind of environment, he's not deliberately trying to find a way past David Tenitsa, is he? He's just showing his nose, filling Tenitsa's mirrors, giving Tenitsa something to think about other than the task in hand of pushing the car as quickly as he can. David Tenitsa, though, wily campaigner, multiple champion in many different platforms, he won't be fooled that easily.
There's a fancy livery for Gert Fischer, who racing for Pulse Simsport for the Netherlands, qualified online. But that, oh wow, and drifting apparently is the way to get round Speaker's Corner, and it's quite a colourful livery for Pulse.
I like me a little bit of Dayglow and Pink, so that's certainly a fetching car. And as commentators, we love things like this. There's nothing worse than a grid full of white cars. You can't tell who's who, and that one stands out. Meanwhile, Maciej Malinowski, courtesy of that contact with Tobias Gronvold a couple of laps ago, is slapped with a 5-second penalty that will be added to the end of his race time.
That looks like it's when you break your highlighter pens in your pencil case. That is that colour, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely eye-catching, but this is the incident that got the 5-second time penalty for Malinowski. Puts the nose of the Porsche up the inside. That is actually a little bit less cut and dried, I think, than I thought it was during the live pictures. Malinowski kind of left his car lurking in that spot, but also was a little bit unfortunate, I think, Ben.
Side by side, Tanitsa trying to get past Schoeninger here. Hasn't managed to make it stick. We've still got very fast laps being pumped in at the head of the field. But Tanitsa now under pressure from Osterman. Where is he? He's on the outside line going into La Source. Can he go all the way around the outside? Turns in, kisses. Still side by side. We'll have the inside line for Eau Rouge if he can. He seems to have more momentum even coming out of Eau Rouge. So side by side. Breathe in, lads. We're going to try and go side by side into Eau Rouge. Actually, Osterman gets it done beforehand and gets himself up into 5th. Tanitsa is driving a very smart race here. He might be losing position and he's fighting back, but he's not putting himself in too much jeopardy.
Yeah, there we go. The Osterman tries to run into Tanitsa onto the grass, but he keeps his nerve. Does the Italian driver. David Tanitsa now is on the outside, coming down into Lecom. He gets the overlap on the brakes. Unbelievable. They remain side by side. And David Tanitsa, a bit of aggression, a little bit of strong arming. The crowd go wild in the arena, and that is, thank you very much, I'll take that position back, and for good measure, Osterman loses another position to the opportunistic George Boothby behind.
Yeah, he was a bit messy, wasn't he, through Lecom, Osterman, so needs to gather himself up because he's clearly got fantastic pace in that Audi, but unfortunately just placed himself in the wrong part of the circuit by maybe attacking too hard. Paul, don't you love the audience? Don't you love that clapping? I don't know if you can hear it on the stream, but it is so cool to have a reaction like that. You never get that in the real world.
Yeah, no, that is very, very true. Great to see the audience really getting invested into this race. It's only the qualifying race. We've got another one still to come in a little while later on this evening. But great driving, fantastic driving even, from David Tanitsa and Jakob Osterman to go side by side for multiple corners. Yes, there was a bit of elbows out. Yes, we did pretend we were in a touring car for a short period of time. But hey, that's why I love motor racing, surely.
And if you've watched any of the 24-hour race or indeed the GT4 series races that we've had here at Spa the weekend, they're basically touring car races as well.
Absolutely. Osterman now having another go. So Boothby, who snuck past, we cut away from that one briefly, but Osterman and Boothby coming down into the bus stop are nose to tail. Further up, Nils Naujoks now has dug around in the back of the settee and found a little bit of lap time to try and take away that second position. But Jakob Osterman enjoyed going side by side, so he's going to have another crack.
And he's again on the outside line going into La Source. That's not the best place to be. I almost would be tempted to back out of it, but they do go side by side. He's going to have to try and run all the way around the outside. No, this time he tries the switcheroo. I can't believe I've just said that.
And that's,
shoot me now.
My respect for you was dropped 3 notches from that last
Shoot me now. I've just quoted David Croft. And therefore, no side-by-side going to Eau Rouge this time. You can focus your attention now on getting a good run up the hill. Oh, the Porsche running a little bit wide. That'll be a tick on the automatic track limits box, and George Boothby getting into the slipstream, but actually Osterman's the faster of the two here.
Absolutely. So now, can he do enough to break this gap and gap the cars behind? Boothby has got Tauscher and Whitehead for company as well. So that squabble, those 2 squabbles that we've seen over the course of the last 2 laps, have allowed Michael Tauscher and Luke Whitehead to firmly get themselves into the conversation for this fight. Jakob Osterman needs to make hay and do it now. This moment, here and now. Otherwise, he's going to get swallowed up by the chasing pack behind.
Now we're getting into the last 10 minutes of the race. Does Nils Naujoks feel hungry enough to get himself back onto the front row? You know, you've got such a big advantage being on the front row of the grid versus second row or any other row. The clear track you have going into Eau Rouge for the first time, even if you've got someone alongside you, is so much more beneficial. So Naujoks starting behind Polowski going into turn 1 for the next encounter versus starting alongside. Yeah, I think he'd certainly be able to choose the latter if he can find a way through. But he's got himself onto the tail of that Lamborghini and now can't necessarily find a way past.
Now, it's a difficult one for Nils Naujoks, isn't it? If you're at home and this is an entirely virtual event where everybody's driving remotely and there's not a crowd cheering on everything that's exciting that happens, you probably play the percentage game and keep that third position. But you know what it's like when you perform, the adrenaline of knowing you've got people watching and they're enjoying what they're seeing. It kind of spurs you on a little bit, Ben, doesn't it, to have a go?
Yes, but also remember, when you get your elbows out virtually in your bedroom against other people, it doesn't matter so much. They might give you a bit of stick on Discord. Here, they can get their elbows out on real life in the Fanatec Arena. We haven't had fisticuffs yet, but it's possible.
It's not behaviour we condone, though, just in case anybody's thinking about doing that one. Please do refrain. But Nils Naujoks, as you say, the car now, really, you can see the aggressive body language of the car on the racetrack. Naujoks, he fancies this. He's got 9 minutes to get the job done, and I would not bet against that BMW.
Naujoks is so clever with the way he sets his cars up. He makes sure that they always are as fast at the end of the race as they are at the start of the race. Big, heavy on the brakes, on the anchors. Didn't even switch to 6th gear going up the Kemmel Straight. Such was his setup by the looks of things. Or maybe just holding in the slipstream, holding a little bit back. Wasn't quite ready to make a pass at that point as we look further back at Michael Tauscher. 7th position now, closing on Osterman. Has Osterman lost positions to Tunitsa? He never got past them.
I think what Osterman's done is started just to build a little bit of a gap from Tauscher behind. Tauscher, the Porsche, looks a little bit wet and wild at this moment in time as well. So Osterman's kind of doing what he hoped to be able to do and putting some fresh air between himself and the Audi behind. So realistically, it's Tauscher now needs to concentrate on George Boothby behind. So that's a fight that's going to roll on as well for the next 8 minutes or so. Meanwhile, Nils Naujoks 2.5 tenths of a second away from Tobias Pfeffer just in front of him. And Dennis Schoening has had a bit of a quiet drive, hasn't he? Good result, 4th position, but not really involved in anything.
Yeah, we did see him a few laps ago under pressure from Tunitsa, but it didn't really amount to much, did it? Nils Naujoks running really, really wide out of Curve Paul Frere, previously known as Stavolo, the old circuit, joining the new circuit at that point, and that would have been 5 or 6 kilometres of straight line before that corner, Blanchimont. Now, of course, Blanchimont still a flat-out corner, but following on from Curve Paul Frere, and then into what was known as the bus stop chicane. I've noticed this year that Spa have got rid of the bus stop bit, and it's just called the chicane now. Doesn't really look like a bus stop, not like it used to.
It will always be the bus stop chicane, no matter what it's named. It will always be known as bus stop in my eyes, for sure. But Nils Naujoks, he really, really, really looks like he's found some lap time, and it's kind of feeling a little bit inevitable, isn't it? That car looks so quick at this stage in the race, looks so planted out on the racetrack, and Tobias Pfeffer has got his work cut out for him if he can hold on for the next 7 minutes. And I think Naujoks, at this stage, having seen him race many, many times, he's just sizing his rival up, isn't he? Just working out where the most high probability chance of getting a clean overtake done is.
David Tunitsa has just set his best lap of the race so far, as has Tauscher, so there's still plenty of pace in these cars if they need it. We're not seeing lap times equal to their best from our front three. They're down in the 27.3s now. Tunitsa did a 17.3.
27.3s, you
bet. Yeah, exactly. Tunitsa with a 16.9 and Tauscher a 16.9 as well. So those two are a little bit faster than our front three. Pulaski, though, establishing that lead early on, and 1.2 seconds sounds like absolutely nothing, does it? But in a sim race of this competition, it's hundredths of a second per lap they drop. They're so consistent.
Well, we had a second cover in the top 19 cars at one stage in qualifying. So, again, work that one out, a 1.2 second advantage that you've managed to eke out of your rivals. Really is a fabulous performance from Kamil Pawlowski at the front of the field. But let's not count our chickens yet. There's still plenty of racing left to do. And Nils Naujoks is the man that fancies being the one that does that racing over the next 5 minutes and 41 seconds. Naujoks, he's dropped back a little bit, Ben. But is that so he can take maximum benefit from the slipstream through this flat out back portion of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit?
He knows how all these things work. He knows that if he's within a half a tenth of the guy in front, that the TV cameras will be on him. that the BMW brand will get some coverage. If he sat on his own doing nothing, then we wouldn't come to him. So even if he has no intention of making a pass, he is still giving us a little bit to get excited about, and therefore we can talk about his beautiful Pride livery, BS competition, and the BMW M4 that he is piloting, which is relatively new to ACC in comparison to some of the other brands and the other marks that we have in the ACC platform, mirroring, of course, the 2022 SRO Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, World Challenge Ava, Intercontinental World Challenge World.
That's a lot of World Challenging World Challenges. As we look at Jakub Brzezinski now, 13th position. So Maciej Malinowski, remember, has a 5-second penalty. What that means, because the cars won't be coming down pit lane, is Malinowski will be given 5 seconds for his trouble at the end of this race. So yes, he's currently running 12th on track, but he will plummet very quickly down behind this chasing pack.
Yeah, it's going to be like 15th or 16th, I think, because there is a big gap between McCormack and Murphy being caught up in that earlier accident. So that is going to be a drop of a few positions. It's going to be about 3 or 4 rows on the grid, isn't it?
But he needs to be very careful, does Malinowski now, because he's looking at the back of Gregor Schill. Don't get into trouble. You're not really racing this car. Yes, you want the position and try and gap. Contact between the two of them. Gregor Schill, not 1, not 2, 3 contacts. Oh dear as well. Brzezinski gets involved in that as well. And Maciej Malinowski, I would normally say, will have a virtual slap of the wrist, but I dare say he might have quite a substantial slap of the wrist in a few minutes' time, because that was, sadly, not very bright racing.
Not entirely needed from Gregor Schill either, to be honest. You said it completely correctly. Why don't you just let him go and follow him? Because you're not going to lose a position, and that's where the guys on the Discord servers, the team managers, need to be informing their drivers, and they are informing their drivers, but perhaps the information didn't quite get to Gregor Schill, because ultimately BMW and BS competition usually rely quite heavily on Nils Naujoks to be that point of contact. Of course, Nils in this race, and therefore relying on others to do the communications themselves. And yeah, Schill would have been welcomed the information that he actually didn't need to race Malinowski at that point, because he's now dropped down a couple of positions down to 16th spot, and actually may not, if Malinowski doesn't get any more penalties, Malinowski might still be ahead of Schill come the next race.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see how that one pans out. As we see now, very late on the brakes from Michael Tauscher, almost collects the rear of Osterman. Good drive there by Tauscher, just to get the car out of the line of fire and not contact the rear of the sister Audi, the number 71 machine ahead. But unfortunately, that has broken the charge of Michael Tauscher now. A few more tenths of a second is going to be all the more difficult to make up in this last lap and a bit.
Let's not get too excited. We've got another hour to come for the main race. That's where the prizes are. That's where the money is. 6,000 euros for the winner. 4,500 euros for second, all the way down to fifth, who gets 500 euros. And whilst we might see in our GT Pro Series the money going to the teams and their Christmas funds, here it's into the pockets of the racers, unless they've got deals with their drivers.
Yep, so then, here we go. David Tenitsa now, 5th position, has found himself right on the rear of Dennis Schoninger. I said he's not really had much to do with Schoninger. Well, now you've got something to do, Sunshine. You've got 1 minute and 47 seconds, and you've got a driver that seems to just win for fun in anything that he does. So Tenitsa will be hungry to take that position away, and we've seen how intelligent David Tenitsa's been today. Is it going to be intelligence, or is it going to be a case of, come on, let's just get this position taken?
F1 Esports World Champion, the first time of asking for David Tenitsa, the first time Ferrari entered Bish Bash Bosch, they were champions, and they've been champions around the world ever since. And now spreading their love to different platforms as well. Tenitsa trying to go around the outside, trying to go the long way around the outside, has the inside line for the next. That's an amazing move up onto the second row of the grid for our main race. I think Schoninger was quite polite there.
I think he was, but David Tenitsa tore a page out of the book on how to overtake and absolutely nailed that move. Great respect from both drivers, great bravery from David Tenitsa to get the job done in resounding style. 4th position is the reward. Meanwhile, Nils Naujoks has not given up his charge for that 2nd position on the podium. Naujoks looks to the outside, cuts back to the inside, will try and cut back to the inside again, but cannot quite make the job done. Tobias Pfeffer was wise to that move, but now Yox will get another opportunity on the run-up Eau Rouge and down Le Combe.
We are going on to our last lap of this qualifying race with just 20 seconds on the clock. Tanitsa up to 4th position. That will be a row shared then with Nils Naujoks for the moment. So Works Ferrari driver in the lead of this race, on the pole for the next race. Tobias Pfaffer usually Works Mercedes driver, but for the moment representing Lamborghini in this one. Then Naujoks and Tanitsa, Works BMW, Works Ferrari. The clock hits 0, 7:15 local in-game time. And we are now on the last lap. Where are the changes going to be? Malinowski's got himself a drive-through penalty, so that's going to be converted into a hefty penalty. He's going to start from the back of the field and have some serious work to do. Here's Luke Whitehead with a slightly damaged Porsche. Going to lose the position here to Wisniewski. Round the outside, easy move from the Williams Ferrari.
Yeah, Wisniewski gets the job done before the braking zone. Nice, as you say, easy overtaking manoeuvre. Whitehead, you saw the concentration on his face when we looked at him, picture in picture, doing everything he possibly can in this R8G Esports Porsche. But he is a little bit compromised, and he'll have to settle now, I fear, for 10th position. Malinowski drive through, that will drop him to the rear of the grid. And oh, there we go, that is a mistake from Wisniewski, having got the job done, makes a mistake, and Whitehead, thank you very much, I'll walk through that open door.
WTF? What was going on there?
Easy done in the pressure of competition. Just lost the rear of the car, snapped out. Fortunately for Whitehead, he did. Sorry, not Whitehead. Fortunately for Wisniewski, the car didn't do a full 360, so he does manage to continue. But this man, no such problems.
And actually, Wisniewski, I don't think he's going to lose any positions from that because, okay, he's losing a position to Luke Whitehead, having been able to make a pass. But with Malinowski, the next person behind him, with a drive-through penalty, there's a big old gap. So not too much harm done from the over-drifty Polish driver. But here is our winner. We've got one final couple of turns to do. The chicane is complete for Kamil Polosowski. The Works Scuderia Ferrari Velas Esports driver wins the qualifying race, punches the air, and is followed over the line by Tobias Pfeffer in the Lamborghini. Heavily pressured in the end by Nils Naujoks, who's 3rd. And David Tanitsa will come across the line in 4th spot.
Yeah, Dennis Schoeninger in 5th position from Jakob Osterman in position 6. Michael Tauscher was getting leery earlier in the race, but eventually crosses the line just ahead of George Boothby in 7th and 8th position. And as you say, Ben, the switch over between Whitehead and Wisniewski right on the very final lap rounds out our top 10 drivers. And that is the grid for tomorrow's race. No, not tomorrow's race.
Oh, I
racing
wish.
A bit later.
Oh, I wish.
I don't. I'm home tomorrow.
Luca Lossio coming to the line then in his Mobileye BMW. Beautiful livery on that car that we've seen across various parts of our esports online platforms. Lossio entered thanks to Mobileye, only 18th, I'm afraid, in this one, but we'll have work to do in our main race. It's coming up a little bit later on. We've got a little bit of downtime between this race and the next one, but stick with us on our stream. We're not going to go anywhere. We are going to get our 1 hour encounter up very, very quickly. The provisional result then, Kamil Polosowski taking a photo of his achievements.
Yeah. And that's what you've got to do. When you're in an arena like this, you've got the Ferrari shirt on, you just won a race, get it on social media.
It wasn't a selfie. It wasn't a selfie. He was taking a picture of the result.
Oh, there we go. So we can analyse it with his team. But there we go, folks. That has been the qualification race, Ben. And we've got a little break. We can have a little drink, a little comfort break, go and talk to a few of these sweaty drivers, and then at 10:30 local time, so in almost exactly 30 minutes from now, we'll be back again for our main race. 1 hour endurance racing. So from Ben Constantiouris and myself, Paul Jeffrey, do not go anywhere. So if you thought that was good, next one's going to be even better. See you all in 30 minutes.
Ciao ragazzi! It's part 2 of Sim Racing Night here at the Fanatec Arena. We are inside the paddock at Spa-Francorchamps. In the background, you can hear the TotalEnergies 24 hours of Spa continuing, and we've got the very best sim racers in the world in our arena, ready to do battle over a 1-hour endurance race with a pit stop. They've already had a qualifying race. They've already got the measure of each other. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's not quite as full as it was once before. We have a great hospitality next door as well. But thank you both inside the Fanatec Arena and online for joining us for what should be an incredible encounter. My name is Ben Costenduris. I'll be on comms both in the real and the virtual world across this weekend. And we've got our virtual expert and man of many years of online racing here in person. He's real. It's Paul Jeffrey.
I'm not Pixels. Hooray! Hello, Ben. Thank you very much for that introduction. And hello, everybody, both on site and at home. Great to have you with us. We are about to go racing for our main event of the day. And the grid is already lined up on the screen and starting their formation lap. And Ben, just like last time, it's a rolling start. Just like last time, the drivers will be conditioning and preparing the car. But different to last time, it's a 60-minute race. And there's a mandatory pit stop. So we've not got all out racing like we had. We've also got a bit of strategy.
And look at the time in the top of the screen. It's 7 o'clock local time in-game. That means the race is going to finish in the dusk.
And that means there's going to be track temperature changes. That's going to change the balance of the car. That's going to change the behaviour. What the drivers feel here and now at this moment in time will not feel the same when we get to the final 10 minutes of this race. And you mentioned it in the comms, Ben, in the qualifying race just earlier. People like Nils Naujoks and all these drivers, they'll be setting their car up to come alive towards the end of the stint, won't they? To try and get the advantage when it comes to the crunch time.
The other thing to consider is in this particular race, they were not told the weather conditions because we based it on real life. And guess what? In real life, you don't know what weather is going to be in 2 or 3 days' time. Yes, in the online series, the track temperature and the air temperature is listed, therefore the drivers and teams can work out exactly how to set up their cars. But here we went a bit more real and went, well, if it's raining in Spa, then it's going to be raining in the game. If it's 10 degrees, it'll be 10 degrees. But actually, it's about 20 odd outside. It's ridiculously hot for Spa-Francorchamps. The track temperature is pretty high too, even if we are well into the night running of the 24 hours of Spa. And therefore, everybody's come into our Fanatec Arena to have a watch of this fascinating encounter. We've got Works Ferrari driver on the pole position, Kamil Pawlowski, alongside Tobias Pfeffer, usually a Works Mercedes AMG driver, but not entered by Mercedes in this one, and therefore he's taken a Lamborghini. Works BMW driver Nils Naujoks alongside Works Ferrari driver David Tunitsa on the second row of the grid.
And that is a pretty fantastic lineup of teams, cars and drivers, if ever I've seen one, in the virtual world, but physically on site here at Spa-Francorchamps. And what I'm really interested now to see is, we saw in the qualification race, the 30-minute qualification sprint, certain cars, certain marques became quicker towards the end of the race. Now we've got a stop, mandatory stop, where they're mandatory to put fuel into the car. Is that Lamborghini of Tobias Pfeffer that surprised us, finishing in second position, is that going to be good for 60 minutes? Or are some of those cars, you mentioned it, Ben, the Audi is known as the car to have around Spa. Is that going to start to come alive over the course of the stint? These are all questions that have got a massive question mark against them coming into this race that starts in about a minute's time.
Dennis Schoeninger for Unicorns of Love in a Lamborghini on the inside of the third row of the grid, alongside his teammate Tauscher, who qualified here on site. He qualified and set a time thanks to the Mobileye Hot Stint contest. He has decided to take an Audi on the outside of row 3. Row 4, we see the 666 Porsche, and that is entered by George Boothby, Yasheat driver, qualified online alongside Luke Whitehead, who is driving for RHG Academy, also in a Porsche. Jakob Ostermann from Austria, losing a few positions after a post-race penalty, will start in 9th, with Nikodem Brzezinski for Williams Esports alongside him in a Ferrari. The Works Mercedes AMG driver of Tobias Grunwald, only 11th alongside Jakob Brzezinski, who's also a Williams driver, but he's chosen an Aston Martin to drive. Dare McCormack, second of the Works Mercedes Astons, in 13th, alongside Gert Fischer for Pulse Simsport. Look out for that very garish livery. He's also in a Mercedes. Gregor Schill, Works BMW driver, 15th. Eamon Murphy, usually Works McLaren driver effectively, but entered here as a McLaren Veloce GT driver, 16th. Luca Lossio representing Mobileye in 17th. Dominic Bleijer should rise from 18th position. He was right at the sharp end in race 1. Malosky, Van der Velde, Ryan Meenan, Huben, Simonini, the Works Lamborghini driver, and Igor Rodriguez round up our 24 sim racing pro drivers here inside the Fanatec Arena at Spa, ready for a 1-hour encounter.
So, Kamil Pawlowski on pole position. Can he convert that once again into a race lead as we run up to the line? We're about to go green, and now we are for the main race. Kamil Pawlowski a little bit slow off the line. That allows Tobias Pfeffer the opportunity on the run up Eau Rouge. Can they stay away from each other? Yes, they can, side by side, over the top of the hill. And there's every single car fighting for position. But Pawlowski just about holds it. And then we have a new race leader, Tobias Pfeffer.
Wiggly, wiggly, wiggly from David Tanitsa. They didn't quite have the temperature in that Ferrari tyres, and he was trying to pinch to make sure there was no contact between himself and the Lamborghini, so has to go into second position. There's a bit of contact between Nils Naujoks and Pawlowski, with Tanitsa up into fourth position, ahead of Schoeninger, who is in fifth, and he is defending from a teammate in sixth. We have had a car off, and Luke Whitehead in strife again. Oh, Nils Naujoks getting bullied off to the side of the track.
Yeah, so Naujoks on one of the Ferraris. That's David Tanitsa, side-by-side contact between them. Naujoks manages to recover the car onto the racetrack, so not really a great deal lost there, but that opened the door to allow Dennis Schoeninger on his way through as well. So Tanitsa showing aggression that we did not see in the qualification race, and Naujoks will not be happy with that. 2 races, Ben, and 2 times Nils Naujoks has lost positions, and we don't say that very often.
Absolutely wonderful to have teammates running together, because you can work together, you can help each other defend and attack, and we've got Pawlowski and Tanitsa for the Works Ferrari team. This is not some pretend Ferrari.
Well, it is a pretend Ferrari.
It is a pretend Ferrari in the game, but this is a real-world Ferrari team entered here. There are PR ladies to look after these boys here as well. This is real manufacturer OM entries, a sharp end. Ferrari versus BMW for the victory. But at the moment, it's the Lamborghini that's leading from a kind of a support entry, if you like. We do have a Works Lamborghini at the very back of the field, but Tobias Pfeffer is open. Oh, and that's a late move.
That is a late move. Nils Naujoks showing his frustration, throwing the car down the inside of Dennis Schoeninger. It did not work for Nils Naujoks on that occasion. That allows Michael Tauscher to find his way past as well. So very late on the brakes into the chicane for Nils Naujoks. A little bit of contact further up the road, as well as the two the Williams Mercedes and the Williams Ferrari go side by side. Dare McCormack having a much more lively start to the race than we saw in the qualification event. Just runs wide on the exit of the source as well, courtesy of a bit of a hip and shoulder from his teammate. Now, who will be the car that gets out of the front of the 2 Williams cars?
Side by side for Eau Rouge. They all go off track, and there's big contact. That is going to be Wisniewski hard into the wall. He made a little bit of contact with Gregor Schill there, because both the cars went massively off the track. And further ahead, Tauscher is having a great run of things. I think he's going to lose position here to Schoeninger. He's going to try and go around the outside. No, this is Osterman and Boothby, in fact, a little bit further back. Osterman was so strong. It was Schoeninger and Tauscher a bit further ahead. And Nils Naujoks trying to find a way through, but has his way blocked, really, by the 2 fighting ahead of him.
And look at Nils Naujoks, he's got his gander up now. He knows that he needs to make ground, and he made ground very quickly indeed, but there was just not enough room for Naujoks to find his way back through the battle in Tauscher and Schoeninger, who both just stay ahead. Naujoks still in 6th position. We've seen Simonini and Whitehead now down in pit lane, so that's a retirement, I fear, for Simonini and Luke Whitehead, 22nd and 23rd position. Luca Lossio as well on our timing screen is showing in pit road as well, courtesy of some first lap dramas in this race. It was clean in the first race, but these guys and girls, they're fighting for €6,000 for the race winner.
Yeah, now they're fighting for something. They're not just fighting to be in a position on the grid. They really don't want to allow anything to happen. And because it's such fine margins in the world of pro sim racing, You can't let anybody get away. A 1.3 second gap for Tobias Pfeffer at the front is what the gap was at the end of our half-an-hour encounter for Pawlowski and Pfeffer. It is swapped around, though. Pfeffer has a really strong first couple of laps. At least Pawlowski doesn't have to worry too much about Tanitsa behind, because those two will not fight and compromise themselves too much.
And now we see the fight. This is Michael Tauscher in the middle car. That's the green and black Audi that we see in focus on this shot in 5th position. Just ahead of him is Dennis Schoninger in the Lamborghini, the same Mark, remember, that's leading this race. Now, can that Lamborghini hold out for the full duration of the stint? We know Tauscher is an incredibly fast racing driver, exceptionally quick on this platform in this series. By the way, Tobias Grottenwald is showing on screen as jumping down pit road, so real shame for the Unicorns of Love squad. They've come out in force in the Fanatec Arena today, and obviously they're a bit of a fan favourite online as well, so real shame to see Tobias exiting the event so early in this main race.
I'm afraid Luca Lossio as well in the Mobileye BMW also has pitted and therefore is assumed to be out of the race. We've got a Works Lamborghini driver out and now a Works Mercedes EMG driver out of the race. That's where you need to enter more cars, fellas, because the more cars you have, the more chance you have of victory. But unfortunately, if you only enter a couple, then it's possible to lose it, and nearly losing it is Gregor Schill. Gathering it up again. That BMW just looks so massive on track versus the rest of the small, slimline vehicles, even though actually the car we were riding on board with, the McLaren, is also a bit of a hefty big one, even if it is very slim line, it is still a big car to muscle around the circuit.
Now somebody in race control has got a bag full of penalties and has dropped them on the floor because they've been dished out left, right and centre. We'll come back to that one in a moment though, because Eamon Murphy looks to the outside of Gregor Schill. Schill has the line covered on the inside, so Gregor Schill doing what he needs to do at this moment in time, but it's compromised on corner exit. That offers an opportunity again to Murphy, but he's only got the outside line available to him. Can he get the cutback? No, he can't. Schill slowing the car down on the apex, covering all of the opportunity for Gregor Schill, but Jakob Brzezinski and Tinko van der Velde stop and go 30 seconds. They've got to come down pit lane, they've got to stop in their box, wait for 30 seconds and then get back out on the racetrack again. So Brzezinski and van der Velde, not the kind of start they wanted to this race. We'll find out hopefully in a little while exactly why those penalties have been issued. One assumes it is for the dramas that we saw in the opening laps, but Eamon Murphy, having made his attack, still cannot get onside with Gregor Schill. Murphy goes to the inside again, Schill covers the inside line. No doing for Eamon Murphy, and that is allowing Rodriguez, who, remember, retired from the qualification race earlier on today. So Igor Rodriguez, now has a big opportunity to close up.
Brzezinski causing a collision with multiple cars, stop-go 30-second penalty, and also the 66 with Van der Velde, who is taking that penalty now, causing contact with multiple cars when he rejoined.
Oh, thanks very much, Ben. So there we go. That was for the drama that we saw in the opening stages of this race. And Spa-Francorchamps is the kind of track that just encourages this kind of excitement, especially when the big race is on. The drivers are a bit tired, Ben. They've done the qualification session, they've done the qualification race, they've been trackside all day, and now it's starting to show that fatigue.
They're tired. They haven't been doing a 24-hour race at the same time as doing a 24-hour race. Brzezinski in a virtual fight on a virtual race, because of course he's got that stop-go penalty. Might as well get that done quickly so he can focus on the rest of the race. With 52 minutes still remaining, you don't want a stop-go hanging over your head too much, and we're sure to have more drama and action, but it's a real shame to lose, I think, the only Aston Martin that we have represented in the field here. Yeah. Nobody chose the Honda, Paul. The Honda was the one.
The Honda is a beautiful car in ACC and in real life, to be fair, and it is a pity. I always enjoy seeing Honda out on the racetrack. So
apparently, in the latest BOP, it is the one.
Oh, so there's a big mistake then. See, yeah. We're up in the box. We should be out there on the track.
Team BC and PJ.
Yeah, so we're looking at Nils Naujoks now, 6th position. Remember, Naujoks showed a lot of pace in the qualification race earlier. He's very aggressive. In fact, Ben, this is a replay of our drama. Or is it a replay of our drama? No, it's not. This is live pictures, actually, sorry. As Naujoks again, still trying to find a way past Tauscher. Still got Osterman for company. And McCormack now, slowly but surely, creeping up into that alongside George Boothby. And this is the problem, Ben, isn't it? You squabble amongst yourselves, you fight for track position, and then all of a sudden a two-way fight becomes five-way.
And that is why I think it's great that the two Ferraris are together, but actually they're losing time to Pfeffer right now. The gap is up to 1.4 seconds, all right, it's a tenth. The guys are matching them so much, matching each other so much, that there is such small advantages. Nils Naujoks, where is your braking point? Just about got around the circuit, or was he caught out by Tauscher braking very, very early? Seemed to make the corner quite nicely. He is defending from that fast Austrian behind him. Most of the men crawling all over the back of the BMW. Does the BMW perhaps have a bit of damage from contact earlier on? We don't generally see the damage in the car, but a little bit of contact can make the car, especially in a straight line, quite a bit slower than it should be.
And it's all these small percentages, isn't it, that make the difference between being able to do what you want to do and having to compromise, having to work with whatever it is that you've got underneath you. And don't forget as well, Tauscher and Schoninger ahead are in a fight of their own. And the difference between real and virtual, in a virtual world, you're looking on a screen, it is a flat screen. You don't have the depth perception. You don't have the sort of feel that you get in a real car where you can taste it, you can smell it, you can sense it. So a lot of it's judged on visual cues, and it becomes much, much more difficult to see where your sometimes closing speeds are a little bit higher than you think they are in a virtual world, where you would never have made that mistake in real life, let's say.
Yeah, I always brake far too early because I'm scared.
Also true. I've got no talent, that's why I brake also very early. And as we've gone through earlier on as well, Ben and I very much are better behind the scenes.
Well, no, I mean, I'm quite good in front of the scenes, but I'm just not very good behind a wheel. Another shot. Nils Naujoks is getting some coverage tonight. The cameraman loves him. Obviously the purple shirt.
We know, though, don't we, from our experience of seeing Naujoks in SRO Esports competition for many years now, since 2019 when the championship made its debut, Naujoks is a very aggressive, very fast, but very tenacious driver. And more often than not, you don't see Nils Naujoks in a quiet, boring run to fourth.
No, and the other thing to consider also is, while so many of our sim racers in the arena this evening are younger, Nils is an old boy. He's one of us. He was sim racing back in 2003, 4, 5 on Live for Speed. Took some time out, got into the real world and forgot about sim racing until, 2017, 18, where he saw a competition to travel to Mexico and thought, do you know what, I fancy that. It's only hot lapping. It's only a 1 kilometer circuit. I'm going to put my head down. Did that, won a place to Mexico, met a guy at the time who was managing Red Bull Esports, and found himself back very much in the esports world, having to quit the job that he had to full-time manage Red Bull Esports at the time, get himself back into racing, representing G2 Esports, and now he's moved himself across to BS competition, and therefore BMW Works driver as well.
Yeah, really good career from Nils Naujoks, and plenty of mileage left in him as well. Really competitive driver, but Tobias Pfeffer, this has got to be the story of the night so far for me. I did not expect this Lamborghini to be quite as quick as it's showing. Tobias Pfeffer, we know, is a very experienced, very fast driver, 7th in the United States competition at this moment in time with a couple of races left to run. But he was incredibly strong. He soaked up the pressure from Naujoks in the qualification race and has not put a wheel wrong. Got the start he needed, got the early race lead, and now he's got a 1.5 second advantage over our runaway winner in the qualification race. So it's looking good at this very, very early stage for Tobias Pfeffer in the number 55.
Did you notice the matchy-matchy there? The Unicorns of Love team in the audience with their shirts. Exactly the same livery as on that Lamborghini. As you do, dressed like your car.
Indeed, and that's the kind of preparation.
I hope your car doesn't look like that.
My shirts are legendary and wonderful, and I'll have nothing said against them. For those of you that are wondering, yes, it is Paisley. But no, that's what I'm talking about when we spoke in the qualification race, isn't it? Everything's becoming so much more professional. Who'd have thought 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago that teams of people would turn up to support their driver? They've got the overalls, they've got the merch, they've got the website, the community around it. We're even getting really passionate fans, especially for Unicorns of Love, following the outfit across multiple platforms.
Yeah, some of our representatives from the sponsors that we got involved in the esports are amazed to see the celebrity status that so many of our drivers hold, as Jules Boothby under attack here from Dare McCormack, who didn't really have a very good run in the qualifying race, but seems to have a much better run of things in this main race. ABS at 3, traction control at 2, map 1 on the Mercedes. Doesn't have to worry about fuel at this particular circuit. Interesting though, running with ABS and traction control a little bit higher than I would have suspected.
And that makes you wonder if he's thinking long game.
Yeah.
Not too concerned about the here and now, but looking 46 minutes down the road to have a car that's competitive at the end of the session. And that's a great run through Radion now. This is a big opportunity for Dare McCormack, using the power of the AMG Mercedes. Goes to the outside, Boothby recognises the threat, covers the inside line, but McCormack has the run and gets it done a country mile before the braking zone.
Yeah, that was a mistake really from Boothby, wasn't it? Got properly wiggly up Radion and almost was wise to move out the way, knowing that the Mercedes was going to come through, get back onto the racing line and refocus and try and benefit from what's going on ahead of him, follow that car, and maybe an opportunity will arise a bit later on to get back past.
And I love to see that, Ben. That's intelligent racing from George Boothby. Recognises it's a done deal, don't fight it, don't waste time, because motor racing is not necessarily about racing the car that you're with, it's whoever loses the least amount of time from green to checker, and sometimes fighting means not fighting. Sort of. You know what I mean?
Any psychology people out there that can work that one out?
Yeah, exactly. Please answer the postcard to Ben Constanduras. But that's the thing, though. It's about minimising your time loss, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you've got a faster car behind you or you've made a mistake, don't squabble. Like you say, let him go, concentrate on your race and get the place back or get the time back further down the road. Somebody who's not really bothered about that, though, is Michael Tauscher, who is on the attack, and Dennis Schoninger has got his arms full in the next few laps, I fear.
Yeah, really impressed. The reason why Michael Tauscher is in the Unicorns of Love shirt, but not in the Unicorns of Love livery, is because he managed to qualify this morning on the rigs outside. We have a couple of drivers that qualified on site, most of which are Unicorns of Love Mafia, because they had other cars that qualified online, as well, of course, as the ones that were entered by manufacturers. And so Michael Tauscher, part of that team, but choosing an Audi, running the WRT livery, because, of course, didn't get a chance to design his own livery after this morning. Maybe he could have done, but better things to do, like watching the 24 Hours of Spa. But has been a real star here and is challenging. Well, you've got 3 Unicorns of Love cars in the top 5, haven't you? You've got 2 Lamborghinis and an Audi. And other than that, 2 Works Ferrari drivers. It's a difficult one for Tauscher here because he doesn't really want to get involved too hard with teammates that have qualified online and perhaps compromise. We've got team play coming into effect now.
We have team play coming into effect. We've also got a carrot that's been dangled of cash money. And if Michael Tauscher finishes 5th, he gets €500. If he finishes 4th, he gets €1,500. So teams go out the window when it's cash in your pocket.
It depends, though, doesn't it? Because, you know, as we know, there's lots of different relationships between professional sim racers and their teams. And so for the likes of Tauscher, could he say he is here on his own devices and not entered by a team and therefore pocket that money? Or is he part of Unicorns of Love and therefore has a 50-50 split deal? I mean, either way, good deal for Unicorns of Love with a 1st, a 4th and a 5th. That should be a great party fun for this evening.
Yeah, very much so, but there's still 42 minutes, 46 seconds left on the clock, and we've still got to do our mandatory pit stop. The mandatory pit stop window opens after 25 minutes of competition, lasts for 10 minutes. Every single driver has to come in pit lane, has to put fuel into the car. So
only 1 litre though, right?
Only 1 litre, but we've seen it so many times, haven't we, Ben? It's a 25, oh, actually, no, I'm going to interrupt myself. It's a change for this time because it's a 25-second minimum time that you've got to spend in pit lane. So that begs the question, do you short fuel? Because you've got to be there for 25 seconds, so you might as well take some advantage by having less fuel in the car and fill her up while she's down pit road.
Oh, you just opened another can of worms.
Yeah, and also, let's add a 3rd can of worms onto that one. I've been reliably informed, if you choose to change tyres, which the rules don't dictate you have to, it's only a 5 seconds extra time it takes, so 30 seconds altogether stopped, rather than mandatory 25. So the question is, can you get those 5 seconds back on the racetrack with a fresh set of boots?
Ooh. I mean, look at the best lap from Tobias Pfeffer, a 16.7. He's now running 17.2, so he's half a second off. But they've only completed 8 laps of the race, and they're going to complete another 4 or 5 laps before the pit stop, so that's 12 laps. 12 laps at half a second off the pace on average. That is 6 seconds. It's touch and go. And
also, don't forget, the track is going to rubber up as time goes, and the temperature is going to change because we're working very slowly but surely into the evening. So there's so many variables.
And guess what? a bit like commentating on most of the real-world stuff we do, we'll have no idea.
Exactly. We'll watch and see what happens. Dominic Blyer now, 14th position, trying to make that 13th position. Murphy is the man under attack. Blyer has the inside line, has the advantage, gets it done on the brakes. Murphy recognises not a lot he can do about that one, and that is an easier overtake that you will never see. Dominic Blyer, very nice move indeed, very nice and neat, and now Murphy has got Rodriguez for company behind.
Dominic Blyer, one of those drivers who qualified really high up the field before the qualifying race, but then was penalised in the qualifying race and ended up starting this one right down the field. So has the pace to keep going up through the field. Next target for Blyer is Gregor Schill, and on the last lap they were half a second. He was half a second faster than Schill, so won't get onto him straight away, but within a couple of laps should be on that Works BMW.
And remember as well that Blyer is the championship leader in the silver class of the European Sprint Series, and often we've seen him in and around the sort of conversation for a top 5. So we know he is a quality driver, is Dominic Blyer, and he'll not be happy with running 13th. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of drama on the timing screens that the Gregor Schill and Fischer battle in 11th and 12th position. Fischer has dropped a position, yellow flags momentarily on the racetrack, so a little bit of drama for Gert Fischer, currently running in 12th place. This is Michael Tauscher. We're riding on board now into the newly named The Chicane, or it will always be known as the Bus Stop Chicane, and Tauscher very busy behind the back of Schoninger.
Claim to fame here, Paul Jeffries.
Ooh.
And to the world. Who named the Bus Stop Chicane?
Mr. Bus Stop.
No, Mr. Constant Juris. Not me, but my dad back in 1990, whenever it appeared, he went, that looks a bit like a bus stop. And the year later came to the track, and on the graphic that was on the media centre, Bus Stop Chicane.
You have redeemed yourself for your awful swip swap thing that you said in the qualifying race, so you've redeemed yourself with that one. The Constant Juris name is now back up there again, so congratulations.
Yeah, I was first here in 1993, had my photo taken with a certain Ayrton Senna, and 6 months later, unfortunately, he passed away. Still have that photo on my wall, despite looking like an oik, a tiny little gremlin alongside the legend that was Ayrton Senna.
Yeah, fabulous driver, Ayrton Senna, one of many drivers that have graced this beautiful racetrack, steeped in history is Spa-Francorchamps. Despite being much, much shorter than the original layout used in the 1960s, it's still an incredible place to go racing, and in GT3 cars, an incredible place to put on a motor race. And our drivers, even in the virtual world, here at this sim racing night at the Fanatec Arena, are really putting on a show for everybody at home and everybody out in the arena as well. And Michael Tauscher started to get a little bit squirrely behind the wheel in that Audi, so maybe the car's starting to go off a little bit, or frustration starting to creep in a little bit with Tauscher. He's been following Dennis Schoninger for the duration of this race.
Yeah, running TC on 1, so he's allowing the car to slip around quite a lot, but running ABS on 5, so quite a lot of interference from the ABS system when he's on the brakes. Most of the time we do see those numbers pretty low, although if you and I jump into the sim, we like to pump them up to help us get around the circuit. It does slow you up quite a lot. It's a weird system, isn't it, that you have to do these driver aids, but when you are at a pro level, you try and actually minimize the help that they give you, because they kind of interfere. And you know, the innovations that we talk about with Mobileye and their AV driving and their sensors to help us as drivers be safer and be better drivers. When you are a racing driver, you kind of take it all off.
Absolutely, and there's an interesting story to behind here now. Kamil Pawlowski was 2 seconds in arrears of our race leader Tobias Pfeffer. That is now 0.4 of a second. So something's happened to Tobias Pfeffer to lose him to the tune of 1.5 seconds to Kamil Pawlowski. And in the danger zone as well, David Tanitsa a further second back as well. So the two Ferraris, just as we're about to start entering the pit stop window, have started to come on song. And could this be, Ben, is it simply just a mistake from our race leader, or is it the Lamborghini starting to lose relative pace in comparison to its Italian stableman?
Looking at the timing screens, it was a slower lap from Pfeffer. Lost 0.4 of a second on that lap alone, with a mistake that meant the car was off track. So I'm saying maybe a decent pace from the Ferraris right now, but more of a mistake from Tobias Pfeffer, showing that he's not comfortable out front there. He is pushing and needing to push because he's got 2 Works Ferraris breathing down his neck.
Yeah, and that Lamborghini started. It's using a lot of the racetrack, isn't it? It's working really hard behind the wheel to try and maintain that race lead. Another great shot. There are the two Ferrari drivers, Karel Pawlowski, that you can see closest to screen, and David Tanitsa, his teammate, both in Ferrari red, with Ferrari representatives as well here today, watching and cheering on the team in this competition. We're riding on board in the split screen with Karel Pawlowski, our qualifying race winner, dominant race winner, it has to be said, and now he can smell blood in the water, Ben Constanduris. He feels that this is a good opportunity, if not to find a way past, then to certainly apply pressure, because again, pit stop window 47 seconds away from opening.
Now, when do you pit? Do you pit straight away? Do you pit at the end? Does it matter? Does it depend on your track position, I suppose?
Very much so. We've seen this before in the main series. If you pit early doors, often, there's a little mistake there as well from Schoninger, but I think he'll just about get away with it. If you pit early doors, you can come back out into traffic behind people who are naturally slower than you and lose net time over those that stay out. Tyre wear not too high here as McCormack trying to make a move. Now that's not a good place to go side by side, but just about makes it through contact between McCormack and Osterman just ahead, but Osterman keeps the car on the track. McCormack now to the outside, gets it done in the braking zone, but runs deep. Osterman, thank you very much. I'll take that one back. In fact, no, down pit lane, first one to start.
What about damage? If you got damage on the car, can you get that repaired in 25 seconds?
No. It'll take too long to repair the damage, and often it's just not worth the time loss of being stationary, even with the 25-second minimum time in pit lane.
So, pit stops begin then. Osterman in the pits, Blyer in the pits straight away. We've lost 3 cars out of this race, Luca Lossio, Whitehead and Gronveld. Simonini actually in the Lamborghini back out onto circuit, although be it 2 laps down. And we are now going to have the next 10 minutes of confusion and jumbled up orders before we get ourselves back into some kind of semblance. But interesting strategy from Osterman to get himself back, to get himself out of the traffic and maybe just get his head down if he has clear track. We'll have to check out where he comes back on the circuit once he's done his pit stop. That'll be interesting. Igor Rodriguez, good to see, side by side here with Eamon Murphy.
Well done, great pass from Rodriguez. Has he got the deal done though? Murphy looks to the inside, but no, yes, he's got it done. One thing though, Ben, I will say, I did suggest that if you come in early, you might get caught in traffic. I'll go back to qualifying, which feels like an age ago now, less than a second cover the top 19. So it's not like you're coming out behind somebody miles slower than you, and sometimes that time loss could be smaller than being with the quote-unquote faster guys, but squabbling.
Yes, but when tenths of a second matter per lap because everyone is so well matched, if you are behind somebody who's 0.2 of a second slower than you, that makes a big difference over 3 laps.
Unless you're having a 0.4 of a second loss per lap fighting. I'm stood here with nothing to do but talk, and it's boggling my mind trying to work out the different permutations. These guys are pushing to the absolute limit they're capable of pushing in front of an audience, and they're working them out faster and better than us. Hopefully,
a few of them have team managers and mechanics working in the background, talking to them on Discord, doing the working outs themselves. Certainly the works teams will. I know the big teams will, the likes of Williams and Unicorns of Love. Maybe that person is in the arena right now, but on Discord. Maybe they're back at home. But certainly, I would have thought most of the guys here will have had some kind of out-of-line support to make sure those decisions are correct.
So this is interesting. Dennis Schoninger and Michael Tauscher both decided to make their pit stop at the same time. Anybody that's at home watching this that's new to SRO Esports competition, you'll notice on the little orange bar where it says 1, that means they've still got 1 mandatory stop to make. Where it goes green, that means they have served their mandatory stop. So in effect, Osterman is the front-running driver of those that have stopped. But I'm really interested to see what difference this is going to make to our guys in the top 5.
Key thing is, Osterman's got, from what I can work out, some pretty clear track around him right now. So he doesn't have the traffic that we're talking about and is able to get his head down. How good is his first lap out of the pits? Do we know if he's got fuel and tyres? No, we don't, but I think he's not going to be caught in traffic until these other guys start coming out of the pits as well.
And here's another, sort of an element to this. It's how fast you as a driver can get back onto the ultimate lap time with colder tyres and brakes once you've made your stop. It's a long pit lane. That is a long time out of the tyre blankets, or if you're not changing tyres, them cooling down. Somebody who can adapt, somebody who can get straight back on it again faster, even by a second, than one of their rivals, makes a huge difference.
In the inset, Michael Tauscher just getting himself prepared to go back out onto circuit, having 25 seconds to breathe. We did see in the Pro Series race, Nicky Thiem driving down the Kemmel Straight with his knees whilst he grabbed some water from the floor. You wouldn't try that in the real world, but in the virtual world it worked out for him. Of course, famously, Charles Leclerc works Ferrari driver in the first virtual Le Mans, ate a yogurt whilst driving down the Mulsanne Straight. So it can be done.
Hashtag only in sim racing, as we see a few of the drivers now coming back out onto the racetrack. And these are critical moments. We're almost halfway through the mandatory pit window. You can see that in the middle of the screen, 5 minutes, 34 seconds left. And it's so important. We've seen this as well this season and last, Ben, where some drivers leave it a little bit too late, miss that window, and get themselves a stop-go penalty. So you've got to be, you want to be as late as you can, but you don't want to misjudge that one, and it's so difficult for these drivers to get it right.
And you've got to make sure you do the right thing. You've got to make sure you've read the regulations and know that you have to stop for 25 seconds. I can't believe how many drivers in the GT4 series do pit stops that are too short and get penalties. The clear as day in the regulations, they've got a team of people around them and still managed to make a pig's ear of it. So it is still possible. Our top 3-4 drivers still not pitting, but I'm not sure Jakob Osterman has benefited particularly. He seems to be 11 seconds back from Tauscher and Schoeninger. Schoeninger establishing a 1.8 second advantage over Tauscher in the pits, but I can't work out why they're 11 seconds behind, 11 seconds ahead of Osterman, because I'm sure the gap was smaller than that pre-pit stop.
These things will work themselves out over the next 5 or 6 minutes, I'm absolutely sure. Let the timing screen catch itself back up as well. And interestingly, Nils Naujoks has come down pit lane as well. So Naujoks is the furthest up of the runners to have currently made their pit stop. And we saw Naujoks in traffic fighting with some of the other drivers earlier on. So this will be really interesting now to see if Naujoks in the number 7 BMW can unlock some pace and start to do the undercut on the cars ahead of him. And this is where we're really going to see potential massive moves and shakes as this race unfolds.
Yeah, so team manager of the Ferrari team will be looking at what Naujoks is doing, working out he'll be in the game, and be able to follow Nils Naujoks' car. He'll follow him down the pit lane, he'll do the timings, he'll work out if the car is going up in the air and therefore changing wheels or not, and then coming back out on the circuit. Here he comes now, Nils Naujoks, with a pretty clear track around him. He's got to get up to speed though, and it's a fiddly pit exit, but it does help you get up to speed. There is a Unicorns of Love Lamborghini. There is Nils Naujoks holding the inside line. The Lamborghini comes across and has the speed. So Naujoks losing a position, and that is to Dennis Schoeninger, but I think he's got ahead of Tauscher.
And that is critical for Naujoks to have lost that position to the Lamborghini and the time that comes with it. By the way, McCormack, stop-go 30-second penalty. That can only be for speeding in the pit lane. So Darren McCormack gets a stop-go 30-second penalty, taking him completely out of contention. The 814, a massive mistake for McCormack. So easy to make and humongous consequences.
So we think Naujoks was ahead of this battle pre-pit stop, do we? I thought he was behind the guys because he'd lost a lot of time, but maybe not.
I think he was behind them, but I think by going longer, he would have hoped to have tried to do the bit of
Jump
the
both.
overlap and jump them both. So only just missed out did Naujoks, but that is going to be so important because that's a car not only that's going to hold him up, potentially, but he's going to find his way past as well. And the longer he stays behind that one, the harder it will be to get in contention with those cars ahead.
Top two in the pits then, Tobias Pfeffer and Kamil Pazlowski, the two at the head of a field have pitted. Tanitsa has stayed out then, so he is going to try and jump his teammate by going one or even, not 2 laps longer. There's not enough time to do 2 laps. So a slight split strategy from our two Ferraris, and we'll have to focus on where they come out in relation to this next battle, because the battle we're watching right now is effectively the 4th, 5th, 6th battle, whereas at the head of the field, Ferrari, and Lamborghini was our lead battle.
And that is smart from Tanitsa. He knows it's going to be an incredibly big ask to close the gap down and make the overtake on the racetrack. The only option available to David Tanitsa is do something different, and that is stay out to see where the advantage comes.
There is the Ferrari ahead. Wow, in the pits. I'm not sure how that is even possible, but Pawlowski has got ahead of Tobias Pfeffer and has now set us up for a big old fight. Tanitsa surely coming into the pit lane any second as he comes towards the end of his lap. And he's not going to be able to go another one, but that is a big, big ask from the Ferrari. How has he managed that?
And that is exactly what this format has been designed for. Throwing in a bit of strategy, throwing in a variable for the drivers to overcome, and it has worked beautifully for the Scuderia Ferrari Velas Esports team, overtaking on pit road Tobias Pfeffer in the Unicorns of Love Lamborghini. Now Pfeffer has got to dig deep to try and get on terms with Pawlowski. This is going to be an absolute barnstormer in the last 25 minutes and change.
Tobias Pfeffer on the inset now, really having to work very, very hard for his tee, running wide on the exit of the speaker's corner. And of course, this isn't a very important lap for the two of them. They've got colder tyres. They need to push it extremely hard because they've got Tanitsa in the pits who's been up the road. He is now getting his service. Can he jump the two of them? That would be an incredible story from the F1 Esports champion, the effectively lead Ferrari driver. But let's see. The pit window is going to shut in 4 seconds. Everyone, I think, has completed their mandatory stop. We've got a couple of guys in the pits right now doing so.
And this is exactly why we love these mandatory pit stop races. Different strategies, it all converges at the end of the day onto the racetrack, but has David Tanitsa, by doing something different to his rivals, opened up an opportunity that realistically would have been very difficult for him to have done purely on the racetrack? Does Tobias Pfeffer have enough in the tank as the attacker rather than the defender as well? All these things we're going to find out. That's what they're racing for, Ben. Trophies and cash. Those are beautiful trophies. They're in front of an audience. They've travelled from all corners of Europe and beyond to Spa-Francorchamps. It means more than you could possibly imagine this race.
Pawlowski into the hairpin. There is Tanitsa trundling down the pit lane. He's at such a slow speed right now as the lead two fire down towards Eau Rouge for another time. And now down into the compression, up the hill, into Radion. Tanitsa's already at the top of the hill, but Tanitsa's slower at the top of the hill than the Ferrari and the Lamborghini. Tanitsa's well ahead, though, well ahead. It's going to be closing all the time, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough from Pawlowski. Tanitsa from third to first. No, into the braking zone. Which Ferrari's leading now?
This is absolutely incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. Pull your socks up because this is sensational. Pfeffer uses the confusion between the two Ferraris, runs out of racetrack, touches his wheels on the curb. Now, can he go around the outside? Tanitsa just about holding on. Pawlowski buys back into it as well. Tobias Pfeffer has gone from trying to fight for the lead to drop down to third, but he's still there.
Still to the inside of the speaker's corner. He's still got the overlap. He's still going to try and hassle Pawlowski off the line. The Unicorns of Love team absolutely on the edge of their seats. You could see they were on the edge of their seats. They were on the edge of their seats, still trying to go down the inside of Pouin. There's still an opportunity because the Ferrari runs a little bit wide through the second part of Double Gauche. There's still an opportunity even into Fagnes, and Tanitsa's checked out. Thank you very much. You guys continue to fight. I'm going off to win this one.
I'm not even on a seat and I'm on the edge of my seat. That is absolutely fantastic stuff. Strategy playing off for David Tanitsa. Kamil Pawlowski not afraid to get aggressive. Tobias Pfeffer using every trick in the book and some more to leverage his speed back into second position. And now with 22 minutes and 33 seconds on our hands, we have got ourselves a motor race.
Can Pawlowski get back onto the tail of his teammate? Question one. Can Pfeffer do anything about Pawlowski? It was so tight, but it was set up because of the confusion between the two Ferraris, because I think Pawlowski thought I'd slam it down the inside into Lecombe, but it was going to be a bit of a marginal move, and you can't do that to your teammate. You could have seen two Ferraris far off into the wall, so by thinking better of it, suddenly invited the Lamborghini to the party. And oh, by the way, Schoeninger, Naujoks, Tauscher, look at the back of shot. There they are, coming to play as well.
This is absolutely brilliant stuff. And it just goes to show, Ben, doesn't it? We've talked about it ad nauseum. You cannot afford to take your foot off the gas, metaphorically, for more than a split second. If you're not 110% focused on the task in hand and pushing and make no mistakes, you're going to get swamped by your rivals, and that's exactly what we saw. Confusion for a split second, and all the drama in the world unfolds, and now Tobias Pfeffer fancies his chances again.
By the way, that inset shot, look how chilled they look. They really don't look like they are fighting the car. They are just relaxed into it. They've got really good body language. I remember when World's Fastest Gamer was established, and the first iteration was at the McLaren F1 Centre, where they have all kinds of studies about the behavior of their athletes. And some of the drivers who were hunched over their steering wheels, who were wrestling their cars, were told, sit back, chill out, and you've got therefore more great brain capacity and more energy to actually put into your racing. And Tanitsa, for an Italian especially, looks well chilled.
And it really, that annoys the heck out of me, how easy this comes to these guys, how, like you say, confident in their own skill and their own ability, how relaxed they are about what's happening. I'm stood up here going absolutely bonkers at the drama, and they're just taking it completely in the stride, and that just shows just how good. These are elite virtual sportsmen, aren't they? Or real sportsmen in a virtual environment.
Nils Naujoks was really annoyed to finish third position after our qualifying race. He'll be even more annoyed that he's been staring at the back of that Lamborghini for the most part of this race, unable to clear it, because he also knows that he could do a marginal move and he might get himself in trouble for doing so. He's close enough to fire it down the inside. It might work, it might not. He's getting to a point really now, especially with the BMW badge on his sports shirt rather than overalls, that he needs to do a clean move, and he is closer, he's better through Blanchimont this time. The Lamborghini covers the middle of the road, and therefore there's just no opportunity. There's no options to get past here. Tries the switchback, might give him a bit more momentum, but it's also inviting Tauscher to the party. So he's going to be really, really careful here. I feel the BMW's got more pace than he's able to show right now, because the defense from Schoeninger is forceful. Oh, mistake. Here he comes.
There we go, and that is great driving from Nils Naujoks. The audience enjoyed that one in the Fanatec Arena as well. Naujoks set that up completely, made Schoeninger over-defend, completely ruin his racing line, and then took an easy pass. And Schoeninger now too close, up Haute Rouge and over Radion, maybe compromised his corner exit. He has got a good run on the BMW, but I think Nils Naujoks will cover the line, and there we go, to the inside. He's left a bit of a gap though. Nils Naujoks, very un-Nils Naujoks-like, leaves a bit of a gap. Schoeninger tries to find his way on the grass, side by side, through Le Combe, but Naujoks to the inside line. And Michael Tauscher, thank you very much. I'm going to have a piece of this.
No, he's still down the inside at the end of the Le Combe. There's a little bit of contact. Has to get out of the throttle not to lose the car. And that is that move done. But Tauscher comes around the outside of his teammate at Unicorns of Love. A little bit of kissing, a little bit of love between the two of them through Bruxelles. And Naujoks is happy for those guys to fight. No, you carry on. I'm off out the road. I'm not going to be part of your party.
Yeah, he looks delighted. You can tell it in his face. But that was some great driving from Nils Naujoks. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Make the rival make a mistake, compromise himself, and then take the advantage from it. And now Dennis Schoeninger has got Michael Tauscher for company. This is Naujoks' opportunity to clear these two cars, put himself completely out of contention, and allow Schoeninger and Tauscher to squabble away for the next 18 minutes. But I think, Ben, 3.4 seconds to Tobias Pfeffer up the road might be, even for Nils Naujoks, a bridge too far.
Well, it's also 4.2 now, so it's going out after that disruption on that last lap. I'm interested to see what pace he's got, though. His fastest lap of the race so far, Naujoks, is 16.8. Did a 17.4 last lap behind Schoeninger. Now with clear track, you would expect him to go faster. We're not going to know that on this lap because it is an illegal lap. He's run off the circuit. As we now look at Michael Tauscher looking to the inside a little bit later on the brakes, but there isn't quite the gap there. He'll try the switch back through the chicane and might have an opportunity in La Source, but no. Lamborghini's good out of that chicane. Lamborghini, I noticed also with traction control and ABS set at 0, so absolutely not relying on that at all, whereas Tauscher still asking a little bit of the electronics of his Audi.
Yeah, great driving from everybody here. Now Naujoks is going to be hoping and praying that our front three drivers fight amongst themselves, slow themselves down and bring them back to this little three-way strap that we've got for 4th, 5th and 6th position. But great driving again from Nauyok Tauscher. Schunninger getting a little bit too squibbly at the top of Eau Rouge and through Radion. That is going to be marked down by the software as a cut track penalty, as well as compromising the Lamborghini as well. And if I'm Michael Tauscher, I think I fancy my chances on this one.
I mean, they're going to know each other well. They've been hanging out with each other all weekend. The Unicorns of Love Army have been here in force. They've been up on the Mercedes-AMG stand earlier on, being interviewed in the paddock here, being treated like real celebrities, both themselves and the Williams Esports team that have got so much representation here too. They've been working with the Mercedes-AMG Works drivers in the GT Pro Series, trying to get the likes of Rafael Marcello up to speed. Worked really well in Puerto Rico. It didn't work so well here. Not such a great result for Mercedes-AMG in the Pro Series. As we look a bit further back, and that is George Boothby, who I'm presuming has just made a pass on Osterman. Yes, he has.
I saw Osterman a little bit offline and sort of out of shape, so whether that was an assisted overtake or a mistake from Osterman, we'll find out a little bit later on. But the upshot is George Boothby is now running up in 8th position, so another position gain from Boothby in the Porsche, the highest running of the Porsches in this race as well. So solid job by the Yas Heat car, the number 666 machine of George Boothby, just ahead of Jakob Osterman in 9th. Gregor Schill having a quiet day of it today. 10th position, would have expected a little bit more, especially considering teammate Nauyok's is all the way up in 4th.
See that pink background on the driver in 2nd position? That means he's just set the fastest lap of his race. Look at how close it is now between Tanitsa and Polowski. Polowski is the faster of the two Ferraris, I think, here. He proved it in the qualifying race. He proved it in qualifying. Now, how much is Tanitsa going to be holding him up? How much is he going to back his teammate into Tobias Pfeffer? How much are we going to have a three-way battle for the lead with 15 minutes remaining? Unless Tanitsa has made a mistake on that last lap. It was a 16.8 on the last lap from Tanitsa, so there was no mistake. It was just a mega one from Polowski, and he's matched it again on the last one.
Yeah, this is a real headache for the Ferrari team now. Tanitsa was suboptimal, shall we say, to the top of Eau Rouge there as well, allowing Pawlowski to close a little bit further once again. And what these two cars do not need to do at this stage in the race is squabble. The second they start fighting with each other, that will invite Tobias Pfeffer straight on to the back of the two Ferrari cars, and then you are in absolute danger zone. So David Tanitsa, by my reckoning, has a lap and a half where he needs to show his teammates he has got enough pace to keep these two cars at the front of the field. Otherwise, maybe we're going to have to start asking some very tough questions.
David Camille is faster than you.
Radio broken, please repeat. That's exactly what is going to be happening. David Tanitsa will have selective deafness if that instruction comes in.
Yeah, sorry, Discord wasn't working in the second half of the race, yeah.
But this is the thing though, Ben, this goes back to what you said at the start of the show. There's prize money on offer, but there's also teams and brands involved, so you're not racing for yourself as such, and Ferrari will be keen to maximise the team results, and allowing your drivers to squabble potentially is not the way to do that.
Where they are right now, it really is up to Tobias Pfeffer. If Pfeffer can get onto the back of Polowski, that's when they have a real issue. Yep. If Tanitsa has enough pace to keep Polowski away from Pfeffer, then it is down to Polowski to make sure that the pass is clean. That's how I see it. If the Lamborghini doesn't get in the mix, then the Ferraris can stay as they are. It's only if Tanitsa has a bad lap and backs his teammate into the Lamborghini and compromises the ability of a 1-2 for Ferrari, that's where there are problems arising.
And that's what Ferrari don't need to do. What they don't need to happen is to have these two cars starting to fight each other. That very, very quickly puts you into reverse. Meanwhile, by the way, further down the field, Dominic Blyer in 11th position. So he's lost out a little bit over the course of the pit stop window cycle. Blyer, 11th place, trying to find a way past Gregor Schill in the number 89 BMW. Blyer, very much a star of the qualification race earlier on today, and another driver that we really expect at the sharp end of these kind of competitions. And it feels like at this moment in time, the Trident Racing Spa car, the number 10 machine of Dominic Blyer, has a bit more pace.
Shout out to Nicholas Huben right now, who is sitting in 7th position in the Audi. He is on race fastest pace. For the last couple of laps, 16.7 he's managed to do. He is one of those drivers that qualified here on the rigs outside this morning, running as part of the GTWR Esports team. There are, I think I've read 250 GTWR Esports drivers. Quite hard to manage, I imagine. They are part of the R8G Academy, but he is not one of them. And he is sitting in 7th position, doing a really good job. Unfortunately, not quite close enough to fight with anybody ahead of him right now. 5.2 back behind Tauscher, but very much one to mention. Nicholas Huben coming here at Spa, not knowing he was going to race, obviously with ambitions to qualify in this race, and has done so and is up inside the top 10 and not far away from taking a check home.
And I absolutely agree with you. Great drive from Huben, and a lot of the advantage that he's gained was through the pit stop window again. Made big inroads on the cars around him, but he's used that. He's unleashed pace when he needed to, minimise mistakes, and 7th position is a very just reward for Nicholas Huben at this moment in time. While you were talking there, Ben, Dominic Blyer got the deal done on Gregor Schill and managed the overtake, so Blyer now has broken into the top 10. The question is, does he have enough pace to give himself a comfort blanket over the BMW? Because I think Osterman is a little bit too far up the road with just over 10.5 minutes. Hello.
So this is a replay of what happened directly after pits. So yeah, okay, Tanitsa sort of sitting in the middle of the road, half defending. Polowski thought about it, but Tanitsa is slow even through those corners because he hasn't got the tyres up to temperature, and that's where Pfeffer tries to go around the outside. At this point, look, he's on the outside line again, but does get a little bit squeezed wide, allowing Polowski to have the space to get back up into 2nd position. It was kind of nice bit of team play there between the two of them. There was space there as well, and a little bit of contact perhaps between the two of them, but again, you're not going to pass into Pouat. It's not really enough of a braking zone to do so.
And that was very, very good driving from David Tanitsa there. Did not get flustered, kept his eyes on the prize, got the car, kept the car safe, but gave no space to Tobias Pfeffer. Legally gave him no space. Really, really nice as we see Kamil Pawlowski really hanging the car out now through Lecomte. So Pawlowski starting to get a bit frustrated, I think, behind the number 95. He reckons that this is his race to win. But will he be able to make that overtake in the next 9 minutes and 40 seconds, but critically, cleanly make that overtake without compromising or risking the team result?
Tanitsa doing the fastest lap of his race on that last lap, but Polowski matching him. So the best lap that Tanitsa has managed to legally do, let's not forget that every time you go off track, it doesn't register as your best lap because it is effectively an illegal lap. But Tanitsa, as fast as he's ever been, despite the fact that we're only 9 minutes away from the end of the race. And okay, fuel is dropping down. Does that mean that you think they might have changed tyres to have that kind of pace 50 minutes into a race?
I think sort of the hour kind of mark. These are endurance tyres, these Pirellis, so they do really last well in a SRO Corsa Competizione. So often you find you've still got a healthy amount of grip available to you as the race comes to an end. Of course, you're going to be reduced compared to what you started the race on, but as you say, Ben, fuel is burning down, the track is also rubbering up, the air temperature is getting a little bit lower as well, giving more horsepower to the car. So it's kind of a whole combination of different factors coming into it. But look what's happening here now. This is really interesting. Those two Ferraris starting to pull a bit of a gap over Tobias Pfeffer. So the Lamborghini, the number 55, does not have an answer at this stage in the race.
16.8 Tanitsa, 16.9 Polowski, 17.1 Pfeffer, and 17.1 Nils Naujoks as well. So it's incredibly competitive. These guys are within tenths of a second per lap. If you have the opportunity to go into the data and analyse the lap by lap by lap, that is what makes these guys such professional drivers, that they are able to bang in those laps, which are a tenth of a second within what they were able to do 50 minutes ago. Really is very, very impressive. This is a little battle that's been bubbling over between 0.2 of a second and 0.5 of a second, separating Schoeninger and Tauscher, both from the same Unicorns of Love team, but with different liveries, as we've explained earlier, with Tauscher qualifying this morning.
And at one point, Tauscher looked like he had the pace advantage in that Audi, but it doesn't quite seem, it does look fast, but it doesn't seem quite a done deal that we maybe expected a little bit earlier on in this race. So whether the challenge has been blunted a little bit by Tauscher, whether, like we spoke about earlier on, Ben, setups make a difference. Some drivers prefer a car that's weighted towards performance at the start of the stint. Some drivers prefer to weight their performance towards the end of the stint, and that could be coming into play a little bit now, because don't forget, these are two entirely different marks, very different characteristics.
Yeah, but what about team play? What about Unicorns of Love saying, hey, if you're going to try and make a pass, do it properly. Don't do a half move. And exactly the same as the messages that will be going into the Ferrari team, because we don't want to be knocking 2 cars off and then giving Nicholas Huben the 500 euros. Remember, right now, Schoninger in 5th position will win 500 euros. Tauscher wins nothing, so he would like to get past if he could.
And don't forget, if you're going to have a Unicorns of Love car finishing 5th, which is highly likely at this stage, it'd be nice to have the car that's dressed in the Unicorns of livery colours, wouldn't it? So
well,
it's for the photos and the press and all that good stuff. So there are a lot of different moving parts to consider in this fight.
Can you imagine that radio message? Please don't overtake, your car's the wrong colour.
that would be another. Sorry, I can't read you. But Tauscher's still not giving up, though. What Michael Tauscher needs to do now to keep himself in the good books with his bosses is encourage. Oh, wait, Ben's waving his arms. What's this?
We lost a Ferrari.
Oh, we have.
We've lost Pulowski. What's happened to Pulowski? In his sim, he's very frustrated.
Oh, Campbell.
He's gone.
He's had a problem as Campbell. That looks like a technical issue, I think, for Campbell Pawlowski, because we're not seeing him on the timing screens either, which suggests a disconnect, lost connection with the server for Campbell Pawlowski, and that's a real shame, but it's kind of answered the question about what Ferrari do.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. These rigs are so incredibly reliable. They've run so well throughout every weekend that we've had over the last 2 years in the Fanatec Arena. I cannot believe that something like that has happened. And that is gutting for the Ferrari team. It's Tauscher and Schoninger go side by side through Les Combes. They're still side by side, trying to go round the outside using the gravel trap, but again, not quite working out for Tauscher. But now Tauscher's in 5th and Schoninger's in 4th, so they're both scoring points.
Yeah, they're both in that all-important top 5 where our drivers need to finish. Campbell Pawlowski now, he's got a bit of a wry smile on his face, but he's not happy. The shake of the head, and that is such a shame because Pawlowski's been fabulous all evening in qualification, in the qualifying race, and then in his interactions in this, the main feature race, the sim racing night at the Fanatec Arena here at Spa-Francorchamps. So, such a heartbreaking way, Ben, to end what, through, I would assume, something is no fault of his own.
I'm gutted for him. You can see on his face how much this means or meant to him. The fact that he's lost the opportunity to take second, maybe victory, and he walks out of his rig. Unfortunately, though, like in the real world of motorsport, these things happen through no fault of your own. If you're a real racing driver and your tyre goes down and you get sent off the road, that's not your fault, and this doesn't look like it is Pawlowski's fault. But he did choose his rig. It was the driver's choice to choose which rig they sat in. How he was to know that that rig was going to have a problem, if it has a problem, we don't know. We are speculating. But, you know, he wasn't placed there. He can't say that there was any kind of corruption with the rig that he was placed in. Either way, Tanitsa now with a 2.8 second advantage with 3.5 minutes remaining. He can now cruise and keep his fingers and toes crossed that nothing else befools the Scuderia Ferrari Velas Esports team.
Yeah, it's David Tanitsa's race to lose now, so what he's got to do is bring the car over the next couple of laps to bring it home and take the race victory. The upshot of Campbell Pawlowski being out of this event is Tobias Pfeffer and Nils Naujoks move up into the podium positions. Pfeffer into second place. Naujoks, after what has been a very exciting up and down race for the BMW driver, on the bottom step of the podium. Dennis Schoninger in 4th place, and Michael Tauscher, as we say, up into that final, the all-important top 5 positions. So it just shows you, doesn't it, Ben, that as in real racing, in virtual racing, things can change in a split second. Sometimes it's things out of your control, sometimes it's a mistake or making the wrong decision. So everybody's got to stay on it, even though we're coming into the dying embers of this race. Yeah,
I feel like Tobias Pfeffer there has definitely backed off just a little bit. He's not on the ultimate pace that he was able to do, and even David Tanitsa here just giving the curves a little bit more room, not quite running the car to the ragged edge. He doesn't need to. He's got 3.4 second advantage, which has come out quite a bit since we last checked in. And as I said, Fafa has got a huge advantage over Nils Naujok. So big gaps between our top 4 competitors. The closest battle is Osterman and Blyer. Here they are.
But often do you find, Ben, when you pull back a little bit, when you protect yourself and your car, that's where mistakes come in, because you're not doing what you've been practicing for hundreds, if not thousands of laps. We've seen it, even with the greats like Ayrton Senna. He said he backed off at Monaco that time and put it straight into the wall. So it's not over yet, not by a long stretch.
Tauscher still only a second behind Schoeninger as well for 4th position. Had that attempt on the pass last time, so his last lap was pretty slow. I feel as though we could have a bit of a grandstand finish there, and Nicholas Huben's not far away, only 1.3 seconds now separating Huben from Tauscher. So Schoeninger might have his mirrors full of Audis at the end of this race.
Not what you want to see at the end of a race like this one. You want a comfortable end to the checkered flag. So Huben doing good racing, Tauscher under pressure a little bit from the cars behind. Let's ride on board now with David Tenitza up into what one could argue is the most famous section of corners anywhere in world motorsport, the beautiful Eau Rouge complex. Over the top hill to Radio. The car gets live. Got to be careful not to go outside of track limits. But as Ben says, David Tenitza driving within himself and the car and the track just to try and bring the car over to the checkered flag. Here you've got so much time to think about what's happening before you run down into Le Cam. If you catch this curve on the inside just wrong, that could unsettle your car, and very quickly you can find yourself facing the wrong direction. Micro transactions on the steering wheel from David Tenitza, just balancing the car exactly as he wants it to be. It's been a good drive from David Tenitza. We saw some tenacious overtaking in the qualifying race, and now we're seeing how Tenitza deals with the pressure of bringing the car to the checkered flag. And I think, Ben, he's well capable of delivering under that pressure.
Tenitza's already felt the pressure of an F1 Esports title, probably one of the biggest titles in the world of sim racing esports. Certainly the biggest amount of eyes on you when you've got that pressure from Formula One teams that he's had to carry on his shoulders as a proud Italian representing Scuderia Ferrari. There is no better feeling in the world having the opportunity to drive. He started his career in karting, then the money ran out, then he decided to go sim racing after a few years of Grand Prix 4. Yes, Grand Prix 4, what a title. And finally found himself at the very head of the Ferrari campaign in the world of esports, and has led that campaign through Formula One and now in the expanding world of motorsport esports, with SRO Esports very much at the forefront of it. It's so fitting, isn't it, that we have the OME supports from all our different manufacturers, and it is Ferrari that are going to come across the line and take victory here at the sim racing night at the Fanatec Arena. Congratulations to David Tenitza.
Fantastic stuff for David Tenitza and Ferrari. A well-deserved victory made by the early, brave driving, aggressive overtaking from the Italian driver. Crossing the line in second place is Tobias Pfeffer. Fabulous job from the Lamborghini driver. That pace held up over the duration of the 60 minutes and navigated the tricky world of the pit stop, mandatory pit stop window to cross the line in second place. Nils Naujok's a good reward for a very hard day's work in third position, the bottom step of the podium for the BMW driver, the number 7 machine. Dennis Schoeninger eventually crosses the line in fourth place. 2 Lamborghinis inside the top 4. Great day for the Works Lamborghini outfits. Michael Tauscher in 5th position, the last of the drivers that have qualified in the places that will pay out cash prizes. Nicholas Huben, 6th position, another very good drive. Made that result courtesy of a very interesting pit stop window. Used the pace exactly when he needed to in order to maximise his opportunities. George Boothby, despite some dramas that we saw earlier on, crosses the line in 7th position, just ahead of Jakob Osterman in position 8. Dominic Blyer finishes in 9th place at the checkered flag, and Gregor Schill rounds out our top 10. Shout out to Igor Rodriguez in 11th place. Had a nightmare in the qualification race to get a retirement, but finishes off in 11th place today. Murphy in position 12. Maciej Malinowski, after all of the dramas, in 13th place. And we've got Ben Constanduras down in the Fanatec Arena to talk to our race winner.
Thank you very much, Paul Jeffrey. What an entertaining race we had. What drama we had for Ferrari. It might not necessarily be a 1-2 that they will look so on for, but David Tunitsa has done it for Ferrari, for Scuderia Ferrari Velas Esports. David, I want to know how that was possible, because at the first part of the race, in third position after the pit stop, suddenly you're in the lead.
Well, it all started in quali while I was struggling a bit with the simulator, adapting, you know, and that's why I started a bit further back. But in the sprint race, I saw that I had the pace to stay in front, and in the race, I managed to do that overcut that we were already planning at the pit, and we made it possible. So I really enjoyed that lap, and I have to say it was a huge shame for my teammate, because today he deserved more, and I don't know what happened to him. I guess he had some failure. But today was it could have been a greater day, but he showed what he could do. He was a freaking beast on track, and he pushed me like hell, so it's really a shame for him.
How much have you enjoyed being inside the Fanatec Arena, being alongside all of these incredibly competitive guys that usually you only see online?
It's crazy, because last on-site competition that I did was in 2019. I joined the team, I joined this amazing sport to race on site, and finally, after 3 years, after the pandemic and everything, we are finally back on site.
Awesome, congratulations. Make yourself ready for the podium. We're going to get our podium ceremony underway, so I'm going to head over to my position. Oh, we've run out, we haven't got that camera anymore. I was looking at a camera and it's only you. Hello, come with me then, I'll talk to you, rather than the one that's not there anymore. Well, what an entertaining race. I cannot believe that it's 11:30 at night. I'm still buzzing. Thanks to esports, thanks to everything that's been happening in this Fanatec Arena across the weekend. It really has been very, very special. Right, I think we are ready for presentation of our top 5 checks. Just having a quick look at the trophy presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, make yourself available. In 5th position for Unicorns of Love, Michael Tauscher. Michael, come and stand in 5th. That's over there. Congratulations. Michael's qualifying on site this morning. Didn't realize he was going to be racing here, and he is. It's been great support from Unicorns of Love. And Dennis Schoeninger was in 4th position. Dennis, over here. Look at those sexy shirts. In 3rd position, representing BMW and BS competition, Nils Naujoks. Here he is, over here. Onto the podium in 3rd position. You should know by now where the boxes for 3rd, 2nd, and 1st are. Representing Unicorns of Love once more, Tobias Pfeffer. Tobias in the Lamborghini for Unicorns of Love. But it was our Works Ferrari team here in the Fanatec Arena, representing Scuderia Ferrari Velas Esports team, David Tunitsa. Now, please welcome onto the podium, presented trophy for 3rd position from Mobileye. It is Alana Tubi, the marketing manager. 3rd position to Nils Naujoks. 2nd position to Tobias Pfeffer. They are nice trophies, well done. And your winner, David Tunitsa. Once again, thank you, Alana Tubi from Mobileye, and thank you to Mobileye for all of their massive amounts of support. Now for the checks, and presenting those, Artus Veliscos, Head of Vehicle Dynamics. 5th position, the check of €500 to Michael Tauscher. 4th position to Dennis Schoeninger. And Davide Brivo is here to do the check for 4th. €1,500. Ka-ching. Unicorns of Love are going to have a great party tonight. 3rd place check to Nils Naujoks. Oh, it's even the right color, Nils. It's the same, matches your shirt. Lovely.
And the check for second position to Tobias Pfeiffer. Davide Brevo presenting that check. And once again, Ares Valiskos from Kunos will present the check of 6,000 euros to David Tinitsa. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is your top 5 pro drivers. What a show they've put on for us this evening. And how about that? As if it was planned, the circuit outside goes quiet for a second. So we don't have to keep shouting all the time. There are our top 5. Congratulations. Thank you so much. I'm going to stand in front of them for just a second to say goodbye to our viewers online. I hope you've been entertained like the fans in here have. Thank you for the entertainment and the ambition and the atmosphere that we've had here tonight. It has been great. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. Well done, all of our drivers. I hope you've had fun. Tune into the 24 Hours of Spa. That's continuing until 16:45 tomorrow. You might hear my voice. You might not. It might be broken. Bye-bye.